The colossal world tree stood tall in the heart of White Dove City, its golden leaves shimmering under the moonlight like a sky full of fireflies. Majestic and mysterious, it bathed the city in an ethereal glow. Also known as the Golden Tree, its presence lured adventurers from across the continent, moths drawn to a burning flame. In an opulent villa overlooking the city, the second floor blazed with light. The room was in disarray. Papers littered the floor, each one covered in scribbled strategies for combating magical creatures. At the center of it all, Lyndon sat hunched over his desk, rubbing his temples, fatigue etched into every line of his face. A whole month, and the Ice Flower team's already reached the 11th floor, while we're still stuck on the 8th. His voice was heavy with frustration. The gap just keeps widening. A sharp smack interrupted his thoughts as a pale hand slapped the desk. A girl's irritated voice rang out, intensifying his headache. The door had swung open moments earlier, revealing a fiery-haired young woman with a sharp figure and sharper eyes. Clad in a silk nightgown, long legs clad in black over-the-knee socks, she was beauty wrapped in barbed wire. Leah, captain of the Snow Goose adventure team. Once, Lyndon felt lucky to meet her. She was a gifted swordsman, bold and charismatic, and he had knowledge of this game-like world that no one else possessed. Together, they could have carved a name for themselves in the World Tree's secret realms. But now, staring at her as she stood there with arms crossed in a condescending posture, Linda could only feel a deep, bitter disappointment. "We shouldn't rush the 9th floor," he said calmly, setting his cool down with a sigh. "We need a solid strategy first." Strategy, strategy, strategy. Leah snapped. "You've been saying that for weeks. Other teams don't take this long to plan." Her brow furrowed, irritation plain on her face. Linda's tone remained patient. "The 9th floor isn't simple. Going in half-prepared would be suicide. We need to be thorough. Mystic Continent wasn't some casual game. The secret realm held 50 deadly floors, each more brutal than the last. Rushing forward blindly was a recipe for disaster. Maybe, Linda said carefully, our team just isn't as strong as Ice Flower. If we face something like a lava giant guardian, our current lineup isn't exactly optimal for that kind of battle. Are you saying we're inferior to them? Leah's voice dropped, dangerous. She didn't care about his reasoning, only the sting of comparison. I think you're just scared. She slammed her hands on the desk again. Leaning forward, her nightgown shifted, but her words hit harder than her pose. Everyone else is already level 20. You're still stuck at 15. Is it because your healing output isn't good enough for the 9th floor? Is that why you keep finding excuses to hold us back? Linda blinked. Yes, he was still level 15. But the reason was no mystery. At least it shouldn't have been. Leah knew perfectly well that every team meal, every detailed strategy, every logistics run, he handled them all. While the others strolled through marketplaces or relaxed in hot springs, Linda worked through the night, ensuring the team survived. Still, her accusations stung more than he expected. I haven't had time to train, he said quietly. And that's everyone else's fault? She snapped. You couldn't make time? Couldn't even hit 16 or 17. What? You think you'll be stuck at 15 forever while we rise to level 30 and become star-ranked adventurers? Her scolding was all too familiar. Not trying hard enough, not doing enough. But deep down, Linda wanted to ask, asterisk, maybe the real problem is you? Asterisk. The Snow Goose team looked strong on paper, but they lacked unity. Everyone did their own thing in battle. No coordination, no trust. Without his meticulous strategies, they'd be wiped out on the 7th floor. And yet under her glare, Linda felt only tired. Too tired to argue. Too tired to care. He didn't even bother picking up the papers scattered at his feet. He just reached for a cup of warm water and took a sip, eyes distant. I'm talking to you, Leah said, voice rising. I'm tired, he replied. Let's talk tomorrow. Leah paused, then narrowed her eyes. Would it matter to you if you were replaced? That caught his attention. She pulled out a folded resume and tossed it onto the desk. A young man stared back from the photo, blonde hair dyed bright, with the word healer printed in bold beside his name. Linda's heart sank. It felt like being fired from a job that paid nothing, yet demanded everything, only to be told you were the problem. Phyllis, level 20, graduate from Noble Academy in White Dove City, Leah said, voice sharp. He came this morning. She hesitated, then added, I sent him away. Do you get what I'm saying? There are people on the team who want you gone. You're only level 15 from a poor background. I've been the one convincing them to keep you around. Her foot stomped the floor. We're going to the 9th floor tomorrow. Show us you deserve your place. You're always dragging the team down. How long do you expect me to protect you? Dragging them down? Lyndon's gaze fell to the crumpled notes under her heel, plans he'd poured his soul into. In her eyes, they were worthless. She had been the one to ask him to lead the team, to make sure no one was left behind. But now, she wanted speed, glory, and results. No cost too high. No room for the slow and cautious. His frustration erupted. What if I refused to let the team go to the 9th floor tomorrow? Leah blinked, then scowled. So now you're opposing me on purpose? You think you're irreplaceable? Do you know how many better healers want in? I turned them away for you. She leaned in, voice low and threatening. If you still say no tomorrow, then what? Linda asked, his smile cold. You'll finally cut me loose? Leah's expression twisted in disbelief. She clenched her jaw. Fine. If you're unwilling, then don't come. Young lady will find a new healer. The chill in Lyndon's chest deepened. And yet, strangely, he also felt a weight lift from his shoulders. Maybe he had been waiting for this all along, for a reason to walk away. A clean exit. A justified one. What are you zoning out for? Leah snapped, flustered. Make sure you show up tomorrow. Otherwise, I will replace you. She yawned dramatically and turned toward the door, clearly done with the conversation. I'm leaving the team. Lyndon's voice cut through the air like a knife. Leah froze, her hand just brushing the doorknob. What? She turned, eyes wide and glittering with disbelief. She looked almost fragile in that moment, as though the world had turned upside down and she didn't know which way was north. Linda stood tall, his gaze calm and resolute as he looked down at her stunned expression. She barely reached his shoulder. No need to wait until tomorrow, he said. Go ahead and contact Phyllis. He can take my place on the Snow Goose adventure team. He picked up his jacket from the chair, shrugged it on, and made his way toward the door. Stop right there. Leah's voice cracked behind him. Too sharp, too loud, too desperate. He paused, almost expecting something genuine. But what came next was the same noise as always, complaints, accusations, and disbelief. All I said was wake up a little earlier and get ready for the 9th floor. And now you're quitting the team? Is that really necessary? Her voice trembled with frustration, face flushed red, chest rising and falling rapidly. She looked like she might explode. Linda didn't answer. His silence seemed to enrage her further. She wanted to scream. She wanted to kick him. She wanted to yank him back and demand he explain what he meant because she didn't understand. She couldn't understand. The Snow Goose adventure team had started with 3 people. She and Linda had built it together. They had chosen the name together. How could he turn his back on it? I'm warning you, she hissed through clenched teeth, fists balled at her sides. If you walk out that door, don't ever come back. MHM. That soft, indifferent sound stabbed deeper than any insult. Leah's face contorted in disbelief. Fine. Young lady will recruit Phyllis by tomorrow. Whatever. There'll be no place for you here ever again. MHM. She stood frozen, watching as Linda opened the door and stepped out of the room, leaving her behind, statuesque, stiff, and unable to say anything that would make him stop. If this had been 3 years ago, Linda might have said something to comfort her. But now, he didn't feel anything at all. It was like watching a stranger. He regretted it. He regretted ever saying yes to Leah, ever helping her form the Snow Goose adventure team. 3 years of companionship, and this was how it ended. Downstairs, in the quiet of the night, the sound of Lyndon's footsteps echoed against the marble floor as he descended the staircase of their grand villa. It felt hollow, like something inside him had been scooped out. He passed through the living room. It's late. Stop playing already. Go to sleep. Still up reading? That's bad for your skin. The other 2 young ladies of the team were still awake. Aiko, the sultry mage from the Holy Light Church, lounged on the sofa in a figure-hugging white dress, flipping lazily through a summer fashion magazine. Her demeanor was mature, relaxed, and elegant. Across from her, Corona, small, pink-haired, and eternally youthful, sat cross-legged on the floor, furiously tapping away at a magical whack-a-mole game board with childlike ferocity. Linda had always gotten along better with these two than with Leah. "So late. Where are you going?" Aiko asked without lifting her head, though a slight tilt gave away her curiosity. Corona didn't look up. In fact, she quietly hoped he wouldn't come back tonight. A new board game had just come out, and she wanted to play till dawn. Linda being around usually meant curfews and responsible behavior. "Just taking a walk," Linda replied with a gentle smile, offering nothing more. He didn't want to tell them the truth. Aiko raised a brow, sensing something odd in his tone, but she said nothing more. "All right, don't stay out too late." Neither she nor Corona realized this was Linda's last day in the Snow Goose adventure team. Outside, in the silence of White Dove City, the villa stood within an elite residential district. Wide, clean roads stretched between elegant homes. The summer night was quiet, save for the occasional chirp of insects. This place was a far cry from where they'd started, the cramped, noisy Sparrow district, where drunken adventurers brawled in the streets and chaos ruled after sunset. 3 years ago, they were nobodies renting a tiny room. Now, they own a luxurious 300-square-meter villa in the inner city. They had risen. The Snow Goose adventure team was respected, admired, and wealthy. And yet Linda felt like he couldn't breathe. Every day brought new demands, new scorn, new questions. When will the strategy be ready? "I'm level 23 now, what about you?" "There are no level 15 healers on top-tier teams. Linda, don't you get that?" Before their rise, Leah hadn't been this way. Back then, she was earnest, down to earth, excited by progress, grateful for every step forward. He had liked her, enough to help her form a team, enough to dream. Now, all she wanted was glory. She wanted to dominate the mystic realm, surpass other teams, and see her name at the top of the city rankings. She held the whip. And Linda? He was the donkey forced to walk in circles, always too slow in her eyes, always not enough. He was done. With his hands in his pockets, he looked up toward the north, where the world tree stood like a beacon of destiny. Its luminous canopy sparkled against the midnight sky, its roots winding through the heart of the realm. The world tree secret realm, just like the game he had played in his former life. 50 layers of deadly trial. Each floor held a guardian, a boss of unimaginable power. Defeat them, and the World Tree Goddess would bless you. Equipment, skill scrolls, coins, potions. The deeper you went, the richer the rewards. The 8th floor alone had netted them tens of thousands of gold coins, enough to set up a lifetime of comfort for a commoner. But even as riches poured in, Linda's spirit withered. He was being used up, drained dry. Leah used to ask, "Are you okay?" Now, she only asked, "Why aren't you doing more?" He was tired. That's why he had to leave. And now, beneath the quiet stars and the glowing boughs of the World Tree, Linda walked on, free for the first time in 3 years.
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
After leaving the Snow Goose adventure team, what should he do next? Linda stared at the starry night sky, feeling a bit lost. It was like a prisoner who had been jailed for 3 years was finally set free, holding his freedom but unsure what to do with it. Walking out of this affluent neighborhood under the night breeze, Linda gradually made up his mind. No doubt, he had to continue being an adventurer. With a wealth of strategies and game-clearing experience in his mind, finding a few teammates who would follow orders could make it possible to clear up to the 30 or 40 floors, even if not the topmost ones. If his future team surpassed the floors the Snow Goose adventure team reached, would Leah be so angry that she might bite him? Linda had never quibbled with her, nor had he seen her breaking down. The thought was quite intriguing. Ding dong. He hallucinated a sound in his ears. An icon resembling a mailbox popped up at the bottom right of Linda's vision. Is this relic of a system going to start up now? Linda's eyes sparkled, and he felt a bit happier. For 3 years, the system had been gray, unresponsive to any clicks, and he had almost lost hope in it. With a thought, he opened the mailbox, and a golden envelope appeared. A line of text emerged before Linda. Item: invitation from a deity. Quality: fantasy grade. Content: the divine realm extends an invitation to you. Do you accept? Yes/no. Without hesitation, Linda chose yes. The invitation's quality was fantasy grade. It would be a waste not to use it. After selecting yes, the invitation disappeared from the system interface, transforming into a golden glow that enveloped Linda. In the silent night, Linda vanished from his spot without a trace. The view in front of him changed. Supporting his slightly dizzy head, Linda looked around. Darkness surrounded him. No stars or moon above. It was as if he had entered a piece of black paper. In this eerie space, a stone chair was positioned right in front. A man sat regally on it. An authoritative voice key rang out. Brave one, you have finally arrived. This deity has waited for you for eons. A hero? Me? Linda blinked in confusion. So it meant 3 years had passed, and his benefits as a transmigrator were finally kicking in? Meanwhile, in the villa of the Snow Goose adventure team, inside Linda's room, papers filled with various data were scattered all over the floor. On the table, the water in the cup had long since gone cold. Leah stood motionless, her fiery red hair looking a bit disheveled. She maintained her position with her back to the room's door for almost half an hour, but Linda still hadn't returned. A trace of panic surfaced in her heart. She couldn't help but wonder, was Linda serious? Had he really decided to leave the team just because she had rebuked him a few times? When she heard Linda say he wanted to leave the team, Leah was stunned for a moment, feeling a tightness in her chest, almost unable to resist turning around to pull Linda back. Thankfully, she held back. Why did she have to yield to Linda? Clearly, it was Linda who couldn't keep up with the level, so why did it seem like she was the one in the wrong? Besides, she hadn't planned on kicking Linda out. She just took out Phyllis's resume to scare Linda, so he would agree to enter the 9th level tomorrow. Was such a big reaction necessary? Leah looked at the papers scattered all over the floor, picked one up at random, and soon felt a headache coming on. What were these? Was Linda just fiddling with these things to appease her every day? They were filled with many things she couldn't understand. HP, MP, STR, T, aggro, phase 2, and a multitude of formulas that dazzled her after a while. Leah slammed the door, annoyed, and went into the living room. What's going on? Who upset our revered leader? Aiko was applying cucumber slices to her face and glanced over, only to see Leah with a stern face, as if everyone owed her 8 million gold coins. The atmosphere instantly filled with a heavy aura. Leah didn't speak, sullenly sat on the couch, and started to read a comic book from Corona, her mind in turmoil. Her eyes weren't even on the book. She just flipped the pages mechanically. Aiko, recalling Linda's odd behavior earlier, sensed something was amiss. After a long silence, Leah spoke in a nonchalant tone. Linda has left the team. What? Aiko was staggered, about to blurt out and inquire what had happened between them in the room. But one look at Leah's darkened expression, she swallowed her words back. As one of the old members of the Snow Goose adventure team, Aiko knew Leah's character well. Spoiled, whimsical, and hot-tempered. She quickly got a rough idea of what had occurred. Leah's bad attitude toward Linda wasn't new. It's just that everyone thought Linda was tolerant and wouldn't leave the team over such trifles. Linda has left the team? That's great. Corona, who was happily building a monster out of blocks on the side, cheered suddenly. She dashed back to her room, grabbed a big box of board games, her eyes gleaming, and looked at them. Let's play together? Let's not bother with that useless small fry uncle like Linda anymore. Better he's gone. Seeing someone supporting her eased Leah's mood considerably. Outside of the Snow Goose adventure team, other frontline teams wouldn't take in a level 15 healer like Linda. Once the guy faced rejection everywhere, he would definitely come back, tail between his legs. Right? No need to worry. Leah began to laugh, sitting across from Corona. What's this game? It looks fun. Brave fight against the dragon. I'll be the hero, you be the dragon, Corona excitedly said while holding a hero figurine, pushing the dragon figurine towards Leah. Is it really okay to just ignore Linda? Said Aiko in her pristine white long gown and a pompous blonde mage expression, still slightly hesitant. Linda did contribute to the team after all. This murmured complaint was soft, but Leah's ears were as sharp as a cat's. Aiko highly doubted that Leah was genuinely playing the game with Corona. She seemed to be all ears, using them like radar to check if anyone might blame her for driving Linda away. Oof. As if Linda would leave the team. Just watch. It won't be long before he comes back begging me to take him back. Leah purposefully raised her voice to sound utterly justified. Aiko bowed her head to hide the scorn on her face, mentally cursing Leah thoroughly. Still dreaming. With that good-natured guy's personality, he wouldn't leave unless pushed to the brink. Normally, Aiko would indirectly remind Leah to hold back her words, acknowledging that Linda was indeed trying hard and that they should be understanding. Otherwise, where would she find such a useful and fun toy if Linda was driven away? Her health wasn't great, and Linda would wash her feet every night. Looking down at Linda's head, the sight of that dog diligently massaging her feet was blissful for Aiko, both spiritually and physically. Linda could also cook, strategize, and had the smallest compensation among the main team members. Such a good person was hard to find. So, Aiko had a lot of grievances against Leah, the little Sharpay. But now, Leah was laughing, feeling very justified in what she had said. That wimp Linda would probably come back before tomorrow night. Leah picked up her game piece and consecutively captured several of Corona's pawns. Oh no, I lost. Corona pouted, unwilling to accept defeat. Let's have another round. Sure. No matter how many times we play, I'll win, Leah said confidently, flipping her fiery red hair. On the other side, in a pitch-black space without stars or moon. Mortal, I am the supervisor of this world, the deity Capne. The man with golden short hair sat lazily on a stone chair, resting his chin on one hand as he looked down at Linda. Young man, become a hero and defeat the Demon King. Purify all the evil that shrouds the continent. What? At first, Linda was quite excited, thinking that his golden finger had finally arrived. But at the mention of Demon King, his expression collapsed in an instant. As everyone knows, the Mystic Continent is a highly challenging fantasy adventure game where the main task for players is to get through the World Tree Secret Realm, obtain the Sword of the Hero, and defeat the final Demon King. In the game, a level 100 Demon King is not so tough. Grind for a few months, level up, spend 20,000 RMB, and defeating the Demon King wouldn't be a big problem. A professional gamer like Lyndon could even pass the game without spending a penny on in-game purchases. But what about in reality? Level 100? In White Dove City, where Linda lived, a large magic city with a population of 1 million, not even a level 40 could be found. The Snow Goose adventure team, led by Leah, had an average level of only 20 and was already a renowned small team in White Dove City. Currently, the strongest human adventurer isn't even level 70. So, defeating a level 100 Demon King is completely impossible. Linda looked at the golden-haired man earnestly and said, defeating the Demon King and all that, it's better left to someone more capable, right? I'm just an ordinary person who wants to live a stable life, get married, buy a house. Why not just give me a lump sum of gold coins and let me leave? The golden-haired deity named Capne crossed his arms over his chest and shook his head haughtily. That won't do. According to the rules of the divine realm, anyone who enters must become a hero, or else you must stay here forever. Isn't this forcing someone to become a hero? If I become a hero and don't do any real work, that would be troublesome for you too, wouldn't it? Linda was astonished. Do you think I want this? These are the rules set by the big shots above. Why else would I seek you out, man? Wouldn't it be nicer to have a beautiful girl as a hero? Capne stood up from his stone chair in a fury, his dignity and respectable aura completely dissipated. You little mortal ant, don't you dare look down on a deity. Becoming a hero is not up for negotiation. If I don't complete the task of saving the world, I'll be punished. Why else would I waste my breath on a mortal like you? So, do you understand? Unless you're willing to subdue the Demon King, there's no way I'll let you go. Lyndon's head was spinning. He had just escaped from Leah, ready to enjoy a life of freedom, and now he was being forced to become a hero, subdue the Demon King, and save the world? No chance to spend money, no chance to cheat. It would have been nice to have a big-breasted goddess at his side. Instead, he's stuck with the kind of ugly-faced, male cannon fodder often found in novels. What a mess, Linda thought, and then said helplessly, "So, if I become a hero, what's in it for me?" Cough, cough. Let me see here. According to the Divine Realm Salvation Student Handbook 7th edition, there are 3 ways I can help you. Capne took out a small book from his robes and read aloud. First, the deity may grant the chosen hero profession, a powerful all-round enhancement template that increases growth potential. Second, a high-quality legendary grade skill stone. But you'll have to wait for this one. It takes at least a day for the express delivery from the Divine Realm. Third, the hero may wish for a custom skill, and I will do my best to help create it. That's all the help I can give you. You've already changed classes when you came in, so you should check it out for yourself. Capne raised his eyebrows proudly, ready to receive Linda's admiration. Linda opened his panel with a mixture of skepticism and disbelief. After changing his class to hero, he didn't feel an increase in strength. In fact, he felt a bit weaker. In this world, no one can have 2 professions at the same time. Linda's original profession was a level 15 healer. If he changed his class to hero, his healer level would be overridden. In other words, he dropped from level 15 to level 0. This was not good news. If Leah found out, she would probably laugh at him to death. But upon further thought, Linda felt something was amiss. After becoming level 0, he seemed to only be slightly weaker than a level 15 healer, and there wasn't that much of a disparity. It's true that a healer's combat capability is incredibly subpar, but could it be almost the same as a level 0 warrior? Linda silently commanded in his mind, "Panel, summon." A screen of light, strikingly similar to the interfaces from video games of a previous life, appeared. Most notably, there was a line of text shimmering like the sun after the profession column. Profession, chosen recovery warrior. What's this? After seeing the attributes on the panel clearly, Linda was utterly astounded. He was still a healer. At level 0, all his attribute points were no more than 10, with pitiable strengths and defenses at a mere 5, and his only initial skill was healing art. But now, the numbers on the panel all reached double digits. The initial skills were also numerous, too many to fit on one page. Linda's gaze swept over, revealing the entire panel before his eyes. Name, Linda. Profession, chosen recovery warrior. Level, 0. Hit points, 200. Magic power, 13. Strength, 13. Defense, 12. Magic defense, 17. Agility, 11. Resistance, none. Experience, 0/10. 10 experience points needed to reach the next level. Inherent skills. Balance conservation. Legendary, your strength will always equal your magic power points. Venom in the heart. Legendary, you will master poison healing art. Eye of truth. Legendary, you can see the damage numbers you and others cause. Hidden skills. Devour everything. Fantasy grade, you will gain mystical points after killing magical creatures. Equivalent exchange. Fantasy grade, you can exchange mystical points for experience points, talent enhancement, skill proficiency, and so on. Recovery warrior. Turns out to be a hexagonal bucket profession. An initial magic defense of 17, even higher than a magic-resistant tank. Linda couldn't help but feel excited. As a former professional player, he was acutely aware of the importance of initial attributes. Initial attributes indicate growth potential. Their level directly determines whether an account is usable and can be considered a main player. At level 0, if the total of 5 basic attributes on one's panel reaches 50, it's considered exceptionally excellent. In the reality of Mystic Continent, it equates to genius. The total of Linda's previous healer template basic attributes was only 37. However, The recovery warrior's total of 5 basic attributes was 66. Initial hit points, 200, twice as high as those of a healer. Linda pinched the soft flesh between his thighs, afraid he was dreaming. The positioning of the recovery warrior profession was to have exceedingly high hit points and magic defense, while also being able to regenerate health, pretty much a tanky healer. No need for the front line to protect him. He was the front line. The healing hero's skills were also quite outrageous. Usually, a starter profession that possesses a single legendary skill could be called a legendary template. But this hero panel came with 3 legendary skills, 2 fantasy great skills. Since the creation of the game Mystic Continent, Linda had never seen such an outrageous template. With it, clearing the top floor of the World Tree and defeating the Demon King were no longer impossible. The first legendary skill of the healing hero was balance conservation. The strength value would always equal the magic points. This allowed Linda to easily cultivate both physical and magical skills, shedding the healer's disadvantage of lacking combat capability. Although there were traditional professions like the paladin who could fight and defend, the paladin's so-called fighting wasn't even half as good as the lousiest damage-dealing class. They could fight, but not much. Then came the second legendary skill, Poison at Heart. An extra branch appeared in the profession skill tree, called Poisonous Healing. A legendary great skill tree was presumably not weak at all. Healing one monster to death with poison was entirely possible. The third skill was the Eye of Truth. It displayed damage numbers when fighting monsters. This skill was relatively weaker and was mainly used to observe the reality of friend and foe. The remaining 2 fantasy grade skills belonged to system capabilities. Killing monsters gave mystical points, which could then be used to enhance oneself. The experience bar also appeared, which perfectly matched the baseline setting of the game Mystic Continent, killing monsters to grow stronger. If everything matched the game without error, this meant that Linda didn't have a cultivation bottleneck. He would eventually reach the maximum level of 100. Linda felt relieved. The pressure to become a hero wasn't so great anymore. Once he reached level 100, he, a former professional player, would not fear any Demon King. "Hey, mortal, how do you like this boon from the deity? Aren't you grateful and ready to kiss my boots?" Capne's haughty voice came through. Linda snapped back to his senses. The disdainful tone made his eyebrows twitch. If these abilities were a bountiful act of goodwill from Capne, he would have to respectfully show some gratitude. But Capne was giving them to make him fight the Demon King. The two of them should have a partnership. He was responsible for exerting force, and Capne was to provide the equipment. This golden-haired deity, however, always looked down on him, speaking like a haughty female lady, which made one's teeth itch with irritation. Linda kept his annoyance hidden deep inside. Firstly, he had to claim all the rewards. The third aid you provide me. Am I allowed to wish for any skill I want? Of course, after all, I am a deity. Time is precious. Make up your mind quickly. I am waiting to move on to the next world. Capne's tone contained half pride and half disdain for a bumpkin like Linda. Linda remained composed and started thinking. The skills he already had were completely sufficient. Another legendary skill would merely change the difficulty from easy to very easy. What he needed was some unconventional support. Linda looked intently at Capne, who was floating in the air, elegantly popping a crystal grape into his mouth. I want you to transform into a pretty roasted chicken girl to serve as my summon beast. Summon beast, no problem. Let me see. There are holy dragon hatchlings, amethyst behemoth hatchlings. Wait, what did you just say? The grape in Capne's hand dropped to the ground. Instead of anger, a hint of panic appeared on Capne's face upon hearing Linda's highly offensive request. Linda smiled, showing his bright white teeth. I want you to turn into a big, white panda girl, tender-skinned and fiercely beautiful, to serve as a summoned beast for this hero. Linda said it, but he didn't actually hold out much hope for success. He was just joking to express his dissatisfaction, hoping that Capne would tone down that superior deity attitude. After all, which deity would be foolish enough to truly turn into a girl and become his summoned beast? What if he were some pervert who wanted the deity to help satisfy his physical needs? However, Linda was not from the divine realm and was not very clear about some rules. Capne was far from as composed as he had imagined. As a deity guiding the hero's transformation, Capne couldn't reject the hero's wish. According to the rules of the divine realm, he must do his utmost to satisfy the hero, assist the hero, inspire the hero to save another world. At that moment, bear, girl, summon beast. These three keywords were captured by the divine realm's rules, and they heard Linda's words of confirmation. An overwhelming power that Capne couldn't resist enveloped him. Suddenly, Capne's face changed. His expression went from confused to shocked, then to collapsing and despair, all in just few breaths. "Hero, you scoundrel!" Capne was about to cry. "Are you cursing at me?" Linda touched his head, puzzled. Seeing the other's pale face, he realized what had happened, albeit belatedly. Capne, could it be that he couldn't refuse his request? Linda was stunned. Then, what was he pretending all this time? If he had just honestly handled his hero employment business and had been a bit nicer, Linda wouldn't have thought about joking around, right? It turns out he's just a clerk processing hero business. How could there be such a lousy deity in this world? Can I take back what I said earlier? It was just a joke. Let's choose another skill. Linda coughed, saying awkwardly. But Capne laughed. It was the kind of laugh that had tears streaming down his face. Linda read the answer from his tragic expression. The matter was settled. He could only maximize the benefits now. Linda sighed and looked up at the sky. Looking at Capne being enveloped in golden light and undergoing transformation, he spoke rapidly. "Please grant me a goddess with a big panda, long legs, a peach-shaped but a bit fuller, and a face like an older sister. Oh, can be pinchable? If so, I want it to be white." Capne's body twisted in the golden light, being kneaded into various shapes by the giant hand of the rules. Sharp cries of agony continued to sound out. "Wah! Stop it! Stop right now, you damn hero! How can you manipulate a deity's body like this? I'm going to kill you, Aya." Poof! The giant panda appeared. Snap! His pride and joy vanished without a trace. Capne cried. Everything was just as Linda had expected. The woman in the golden light had a perfect, firm-bodied panda, a waist slender enough to be grasped with one hand, long, smooth legs, and a perky, elastic panda butt, and a head of soft, sunshine-bright, golden hair. Stop now. I really don't want to become a girl and do something as filthy and tiring as vanquishing the Demon King, which could easily cost me my life." The voice of despair in the golden light had turned into a soft feminine voice. Hearing Capne's words, Linda's head was filled with question marks. So, vanquishing the Demon King is a filthy, tiring job that risks one's life? Wasn't it guaranteed earlier that with divine help, vanquishing the Demon King would be very easy? It turns out it was all nonsense. The little sympathy Linda had felt for Capne disappeared. A moment later, his attention shifted to Capne's body. Or rather, should this deity now be called Princess Capne? The Capne part of the name, meaning hibiscus. Princess Capne's appearance was entirely formed by Linda's XP, featuring a teardrop mole at the corner of her eye and a beautiful, mature-looking face. But what attracted most attention was Princess Capne's hands crossed over her chest and the tearful, embarrassed look in her eyes. She looked like a precious princess who had fallen into a goblin cave, both scared and unwilling to give up her dignity, shielding her front as she faced the magical creatures. The déjà vu was extremely strong. Linda walked over, smiled broadly, and appreciating the whiteness in front of him, nodded and said, "Pretty good." "You." Princess Capne's face turned blood red, and grinding her teeth, she reached for Linda's neck. Just then, a majestic voice echoed through the dark space. "Hero's induction time has ended. God's space is closing. Chosen hero, with the power bestowed upon you by the deity, go and save another world." Whoosh whoosh. Two beams of light landed on Linda and Capne. Before they could react, their figures reappeared at the entrance of the World Tree's secret realm in White Dove City. Due to a different flow of time, It was already the next morning in the outside world. The Secret Realm Square in White Dove City was bustling with noise. Adventurers were jostling against each other, their armor and swords clashing, producing a sobering metallic sound as they began their new day's journey of exploring the secret realm early in the morning. This was a gourd-shaped square covering thousands of square feet, and at the deepest part of the gourd was a sky-high tree shimmering with magical light. The World Tree Secret Realm. Many adventure teams were purchasing strategy materials and recruiting temporary members in the square. The square was packed with people. Yet, one team occupied a clear space on their own. The surrounding adventurers preferred to squeeze elsewhere rather than venture into that group's territory. Look, it's the Snow Goose adventure team. They're preparing to conquer the 9th layer. Miss Leah's red hair is still so stunning. Their team seems off by one member, aren't they? There were only a few well-known squads in White Dove City, and the members were relatively fixed, so someone quickly recognized. It's the Eye of Wisdom healer Linda, who's missing. Everyone looked intently, and there stood Miss Leah with a great sword on her back, her fiery red hair tied in a ponytail, looking strikingly heroic. The blonde mage Miss Aiko, Chloe with pink twin ponytails, wearing heavy armor and carrying a short-handled battle axe on her shoulder. And the dark green-haired elf archer Kenny and her boyfriend, heavy hammer warrior Oru. Only healer Linda was nowhere to be seen. Tis, Leah crossed her arms over her chest, fingers anxiously drumming on her arm, and she cast a sidelong glance at the towering clock tower in the square, which showed exactly 9 o'clock. The usual practice for the Snow Goose adventure team was to gather at 8:30, yet now, half an hour had passed, and a certain someone still had not appeared. That Linda definitely knew that the Snow Goose adventure team was entering the 9th layer secret realm today. She had also told Linda that if he did not show up soon, she would really find another healer to replace his position. Perhaps another day for the 9th layer? Aiko, observing Leah's gloomy expression, lowered her voice. However, deep down, she was secretly sneering. Hadn't they agreed yesterday that no one was to sympathize with Linda? Leah had asked them to come early at 8:30, while she purposely arrived half an hour late, claiming she had suddenly remembered that her weapons needed maintenance. In reality, she wanted them to wait here first to see if Linda would show up. If he did appear, Leah would arrive fashionably late and nonchalantly say, "They waited here for you, letting you, this lost dog, come back, but I haven't agreed yet. I'll have to see your performance in the secret realm." Aiko saw through Leah's brain-shrinking leadership. It was now past 9, and Linda still had not appeared. Aiko caught a glimpse of Leah's fingers tapping faster and faster, and she couldn't help but feel schadenfreude. Continue waiting for Linda? She would like to see what lame excuse you could come up with. "Miss Leah, why aren't we going yet? We've been waiting for Linda for half an hour, and he still hasn't come. Let's just go by ourselves." Chloe, who had finished her snacks, licked the oil from her fingertips and spoke with dissatisfaction. Urged by others and fearful that her thoughts might be exposed, Leah immediately blushed. Giving someone a chance, and yet he doesn't take it. "Huh? Fine. Just go in." Leah sneered and said, "Olu, go fetch the healer named Phyllis and tell him that I, Miss Leah, have agreed, and from now on, he will be the healer of the Snow Goose adventure team." We're not waiting for Linda anymore." Olu was a burly and tall fellow with a simple appearance, serving as the team's heavy hammer warrior. He had a good relationship with Linda, and this morning, after hearing about Linda's departure from the team, he had spoken highly of Linda in front of Leah. "Just go when I tell you to. No need for so much talk." Leah glanced at the dark green, bobbed-haired elf girl Klein, pointed ears showing, and said, "Control your boyfriend. I'm the team captain, and he needs to listen to me." Klein smiled embarrassingly and gave Olu a look. Olu silently found a carriage and headed to Phyllis's residence. Another half an hour passed, and Linda still hadn't arrived. "Let's set out," Leah commanded, expressionless, leading the team and their new healer into the World Tree secret realm. Time flew by, and soon it was noon. On the secret realm square, The appearance of a man and a woman drew the attention of many adventurers. They appeared out of nowhere on the platform outside the World Tree, somewhat like adventurers returning using a teleportation stone after successfully conquering the secret realm. The man was Lyndon, a somewhat famous healer known as Eye of Wisdom from White Dove City. With his handsome and rugged looks, tall stature, and membership in the renowned Snow Goose adventure team, Lyndon was quite popular. However, today, the woman by his side was even more dazzling. Capne, in a pure white long dress, had golden hair that reached her waist, and her outstanding chest could thin a veil by 99% for women. Added to that was a shy yet charming face, causing many men's gazes to heat up. Just moments ago, a debacle happened here, as an adventurer set his sights on Capne and planned to use a certain little trick to knock her unconscious. Lyndon had promptly discovered this and used his reputation as the Eye of Wisdom to frighten the aggressor into hurriedly fleeing. Capne coughed, speaking somewhat coyly. "You did help me, it's true, but the Deity, I will not thank you." The intervention by Lyndon had eased the tense atmosphere somewhat. "It's nothing, after all. We are partners, aren't we?" Lyndon remarked wistfully. After exiting from that god space, they landed directly in the secret realm square, and the time had come to noon. Otherwise, he might have seen Leah nearby, her face flushed with embarrassment. Yesterday, Leah said she would enter the World Tree's secret realm this morning. Lyndon thought to himself. Thankfully, he came out at noon, so he didn't run into Leah. Otherwise, if they had met, he would probably have been ridiculed a lot. Not returning to the villa for the night. He actually wanted to find that blonde young lady. How disgusting. If Lyndon's level 0 status were exposed, that would be even worse. Leah would definitely step on his head with her little black stockinged foot. Gathering his thoughts, Lyndon looked at Capne with a grave expression. "About becoming a girl? I've already apologized. Since we can't change the fact, let's think about how to defeat the Demon King. After completing the mission, you should be able to go back to normal." The two of them walked and talked, planning to find a quiet place to sort out their current situation. Capne clenched her fists unwillingly, her voice trembling. But my level has dropped to the same as yours. In the game setup of Mystic Continent, a summoned beast's level cannot exceed that of their master. Lyndon smiled awkwardly, but I didn't know things would turn out like this. You've already scolded me several times, so we're even, right? For now on, you just assist me well, and defeating the Demon King is what we'll do. Even? You're dreaming. Capne suddenly became agitated, her eyes bulging. "I've never even touched a girl's hand, and before I could use it, it's gone? What are you going to compensate me with?" When I was doing it, I called your name? Question mark. A moment later, Capne finally understood what Lyndon meant. She first exploded in rage, then felt an emptiness below, and was overwhelmed with grief. Unable to hold it back, she squatted on the side of the road, shedding delicate tears. She just broke down. "It's okay to cry, but can you find a secluded place to cry slowly?" Lyndon comforted considerately. Capne lifted her head, her eyes filled with a murderous look. "Cough, cough. Let's not talk about this. Our main task is to defeat the Demon King, right? Since you're a deity, what skills do you have, and what is your profession?" Lyndon lowered his voice, attempting to change the subject. But he saw Capne hang her head low, her red lips moving slightly, uttering a mosquito-like whisper. "What? Thief? Didn't catch that. Thief, I'm a thief. A thief, a burden, a profession with neither attack nor defense. What? Do you have a problem with that?" Capne yelled, on the verge of a breakdown. "Why are you yelling so loudly?" Lyndon covered his ears, taking a good look at the holy and goddess-like Capne. "A thief class? That really sucks in the beginning. Before agility is high, the success rate of the thief skill stealing is very low. Once it's high, though, you can sneak rare materials off guardians. Let it be, a thief is a thief. We'll take it slow," Lyndon said with a mild smile, stroking Capne's smooth blonde hair as if petting a small dog. "That said, we better get out of here, or the Law Enforcement Bureau might think you're a roasted chicken and take you away for questioning." Lyndon with hands in his pockets, didn't bother with Capne, and just strode forward on his own. By the time Capne realized that Linda's reference to a roasted chicken was about her, Linda had already walked far ahead. Damn hero! Capne followed in anger. At this point, she could only accept reality. Transformed into a beautiful girl by a hero, her profession a thief, level 0, any adventurer she met on the road could easily dispatch her. Though she still had a bit of divine power left, this level 0 body was too frail. Using it once might render it useless. She had to bear humiliation and burdens before she could regain her strength. Please wait. Not far after leaving the secret realm square, a crisp female voice rang out from behind them. Capne thought she was the one being called and stopped to look back. So beautiful. It was a tall girl with silver hair. She wore exquisite light armor and had a one-handed sword hanging at her waist. Her brows exuded a masculine heroism. The silver-haired girl first looked at Capne in surprise, then said to Linda with admiration, as expected of the Eye of Wisdom, "You always attract pretty girls." "I say, you misunderstand. She's just a common friend." Linda was a little surprised, not expecting to bump into this old acquaintance. The girl named Isa smiled and did not confirm or deny it. Then, with serious expression, she said, "I heard that you entered the world tree this morning. Have you already conquered the 9th floor?" There was a hint of gunpowder in the girl's tone. Linda knew the reason why. Isa was the captain of the Ice Flower Adventure Team, the greatest rival of the Snow Goose Adventure Team. Yesterday, the Ice Flower Adventure Team successfully conquered the 11th floor, which was widely reported by major newspapers, and it also provoked Leah to storm into his room and make a scene. Given that it was noon, Leah and the others should have entered the World Tree's secret realm by now. "If you don't come over tomorrow, Miss Truly will find another healer." Leah's voice seemed to echo in his ears. "The 9th floor? I hope they succeed," Linda said calmly. Isa frowned in confusion. "Sorry, I don't understand what you mean. Could it be that the rumor this morning was true?" Linda left the Snow Goose Adventure Team? Isa's face was full of gossip. About this matter, Linda did not hide anything and answered honestly, "I'm no longer with the Snow Goose Adventure Team." It really was true. Although she had suspected it, Isa was still somewhat surprised. That Leah, she really kicked him out of the team. After digesting the news, a smile appeared on Isa's face. If that was the case, she would not be polite. As the captain of the Ice Flower Adventure Team, Isa had lost several teammates while leading the team to the 11th floor, which had always been a knot in her heart. For this reason, Linda, who was known as the Eye of Wisdom, and had helped the Snow Goose Adventure Team reach the 8th floor unscathed, came into Isa's focus. The first time she noticed Linda was at the 5th floor in the public Grand Secret Realm, when they were competing for the world boss with the Snow Goose Adventure Team. Although Linda, as a healer, was of lower level, his use of magic power was adept. Each time he healed, it landed on the person who needed it the most. As soon as a teammate got hit by a magical creature, their health dropping, a healing art would be cast right after. Such a method could only be achieved by someone who had an extensive understanding of magical creatures and could perform well amidst the constantly changing situations of real combat. Now that the Ice Flower Adventure Team was looking to expand its membership, they were in dire need of talent. With Linda having become a free agent, she had no reason not to try to recruit him. Without hesitation, Isa extended her right hand and said, "Although I don't know what happened between you and Leah, I regret that you left the team. And then, Ice Flower Adventure Team, welcome aboard." Linda was stunned for a moment, not expecting Isa to extend him an invitation. Should I join the Ice Flower Adventure Team? Linda fell into deep thought. Objectively speaking, the captain of Ice Flower was enthusiastic and highly capable, having led the team through 11 levels. During the Attackers Conference, Linda had seen the members of Ice Flower a few times, and he could sense that their adventure team had a great atmosphere. In comparison to the Snow Goose Adventure Team, it was like heaven and earth. But Linda accessed his personal panel. Beyond basic information, there was an option on the left called Squad Module. Clicking it would prompt, "To unlock this template, you must form your own squad." In the game Mystic Continent, the squad module provided many attribute bonuses, and lacking this module meant incomplete system functionality. Moreover, Linda looked towards the towering, lush tree in the distance. The person who reached the top of the world tree would receive the strongest brave sword and a chance to make a wish to the world tree goddess. The person who obtained a brave sword was the team leader, and the person given the chance to make a wish was also the team leader. To vanquish the Demon King, the brave sword was indispensable. Lacking the anti-demon trait, the game's difficulty would increase by tens of times. Thinking this, Linda shook his head and declined politely. Sorry, I plan to establish my own adventure team. Isa frowned. Thinking Linda was making excuses, you think the salary from the Ice Flower adventure team is too low? What does Leah give you? I guarantee to increase it by 20% based on that. Leah only gave junk, believing that a level 15 healer didn't deserve good equipment. Linda didn't have the heart to say it out loud. It was too shabby, and he feared being laughed at. It's not about the pay. Linda smiled. I have certain reasons that I must create my own team, and besides, I've turned back to level 0. Joining the Ice Flower adventure team would only hold them back. Level 0? Isa looked at Linda in surprise. So that's it. No wonder you were kicked out by that, Leah. Isa completely misunderstood. She thought that Linda encountered an accident inside the world tree, which was why Leah kicked him out of the team. Linda didn't explain further, humbly stating, that's how it is. Thank you for your kindness. While the invitation from the Ice Flower adventure team was tempting, Linda still wanted to create a team of his own. After bidding goodbye to a regretful Isa, he hadn't walked far when Capne curiously approached him. What's going on with the Snow Goose adventure team? Who is Leah? Why does your expression change whenever she's mentioned by Isa? None of your business, Linda said irritably. But Capne didn't give up on getting to the bottom of things. She smelled a juicy story on Linda and was determined to get it clear. Aren't we partners in fighting the Demon King? What can't be shared? Spill it, come on. This deity is asking you. The more Linda refused to talk, the more Capne persisted. Annoyed beyond tolerance, Linda finally briefly relayed the story about the Snow Goose adventure team. A moment later, you're totally a lickspittle, right? Doing their laundry, cooking for them, even preparing strategies for free? Dogs aren't even as fawning as you. After hearing Linda's story, Capne was dumbfounded. She envisioned a troublesome trio and one man playing house. Team leader Leah often clashed with other adventurers, rendering their lives unmanageable, all dependent on Linda's mediation. The mage young lady had leg issues that required daily massages. The heavy armored warrior was just an immature brat who also had a foul mouth, loving to call Linda a useless small fry uncle. If Linda didn't cook her specified meals 3 times a day, she would refuse to eat, forcing Linda to always give in to the kid. I've seen good guys, but I've never seen anyone quite like Linda. Serving dogs would be easier than serving that bunch of young ladies. Lickspittle hero. How did I choose someone like you to be a hero? I really want to switch to a hero that respects me, is strong, and isn't a lickspittle. Capne, with hands behind her back and chest out, glanced sideways at Linda's darkening face and taunted him with a hateful expression akin to that of a female lady. Shut up already, will you? Linda was somewhat annoyed. You don't have OO, so of course you don't understand men's thoughts. Besides, when we first formed the team, Leah was normal. It was only after the team got famous that she began to change. Capne retorted unbowed. Who do you blame for me not having OO? By the way, I think the abnormal one is actually you. Weren't you the one who spoiled them like that? If someone cooked me meals every day for a year and then suddenly stopped one day, of course, I would curse them out. Why would they stop now after having done it before? They don't take you seriously purely because you are too subservient. Linda frowned. Your lack of OO is none of my business. You said earlier that a deity must fulfill the hero's wish when it's made. Why would I make such a useless wish? Moreover, I'm not subservient. I just do what I need to do. I can't just let them starve, can I? That's why I said you were a lickspittle. Capne burst into laughter. She thought becoming a lady was miserable enough, but Linda seemed to have it even worse. The group that Linda called teammates didn't really consider him a teammate. They were just using him, knowing that if they pushed him, he would back down. After backing down so many times, Linda got used to it and felt that doing those things was his duty and responsibility. In other words, Linda got played. A grand hero, and yet he couldn't figure this out. Capne conveniently addressed another of Linda's remarks. "What do you mean by saying I'm useless? If I had told you earlier that I need to fulfill the hero's wishes to the best of my ability, you, being a subservient type, would definitely wish for something even more absurd, like licking someone to gain favor or something, haha. What? Don't underestimate others, you damn deity." Linda was completely infuriated, and the two of them started a big fight in the street. Passers-by looked on in surprise at this odd pair. A tall, dark-haired man angrily chasing after a gold-haired woman, with an aura that seemed to say he wouldn't stop until he caught her and thrashed her thoroughly. The latter was not afraid at all, standing at the edge of the fountain's pool, arms crossed, taunting the former. Lick spittle, hero. Darn it, Linda almost burst his lungs from running. Yet he couldn't catch up to the thief profession Capne. He wiped the sweat from his brow with his sleeve and panted heavily. Despite being tired, oddly enough, after all that frantic running, he felt somewhat refreshed, as if he had vented all the frustration and gloom in his chest. This made Linda recall the early days when the Snow Goose adventure team was first established, with members laughing and playfully chasing each other, just like this. Indeed, it was somewhat nostalgic. Linda sighed softly. Leaving the team he had helped to establish over 3 years, it definitely felt sad. At that moment, he looked ahead at Capne, standing on the edge of the fountain, arms akimbo, and a smug look on her face as her soft panda toy fluttered in the wind. It felt like a return to the carefree days 3 years ago. Level 0 hero plus level 0 deity. One could say it was the lowest of the low, sufficient only for cutting down slimes. Linda, however, felt very relaxed with no pressure at all. He pondered and gradually understood the real reason he had left the Snow Goose adventure team. Being pressured by Leah was just secondary. In fact, he had subconsciously realized that the current Snow Goose adventure team wasn't the one he wanted to stay in, staying there would only continually contradict his true inner desires. To build a team of his own and slowly enjoy climbing up the world tree while admiring its scenery. To not abandon any member and stand shoulder to shoulder to reach the highest point of the mystic continent. That was what Linda hoped for. Even though it sounded a bit like a fool's dream, Linda knew the strategy to defeat every level of magical creatures and could overcome the secret realm guardians with minimal conditions. Therefore, it was possible. Having come to this game world not without difficulty, Linda met Leah and agreed with her concept, taking everyone with us, leaving no one behind to clear the top floor of the world tree. Having the same goals and principles, he then founded the Snow Goose adventure team with Leah. As the team's original intention changed, he naturally had no reason to stay. Having left now, he planned to build a new team, and he had to pick the members carefully. Linda looked ahead. The first member should rightfully be Capne, who was bound to the hero and would never betray him. Looking up at the vast azure sky, Linda put his hands in his pockets, a leisurely and relaxed smile playing on his lips. Everything was pretty good, except for the fact that his pockets held only a pitiable 7 copper coins. Leaving with only the clothes on his back was far from easy. If she had still been around, the team, comprising a healer, a damage dealer, and a frontline, could have been directly formed. Linda caressed an exquisite pocket watch, his heart filled with myriad emotions. Meanwhile, in the 9th layer of the world tree's secret realm, the Twisted Forest, the sky looked as if covered by a layer of gray wax paper, the light dim. The dry, twisted trees, as if hands stretching out from hell, clawed at the sky. "Yeah, ha!" The red-haired girl, her expression intense, gripped her greatsword tightly, like a red comet, lunging at the secret realm guardian 7 meters tall, a level 23 giant carnivorous flower. The giant carnivorous flower looked like a sunflower, with a big mouth split in the middle of its bloom, crowded with serrated teeth. Thick drool dripped from the mouth, falling to the ground. The Snow Goose adventure team had been battling on the 9th level for over an hour, each team member bearing various wounds. The newly joined level 20 healer, the blonde youth Phyllis, was frantically casting healing arts, drenched in sweat. That Leah, too reckless. She alone had used up nearly half of Phyllis's magic power. If they continued fighting like this, the magical creatures wouldn't be dead before his magic power was depleted. How did that previous level 15 healer, who had even less magic power than himself, manage to lead the Snow Goose adventure team up here? Phyllis inwardly cursed. Today being his first day on the job, he had to perform well, which meant drinking magic potion while simultaneously attacking, a huge strain on his body. Strength blessing. At that moment, Miss Aiko, the mage from the Holy Light Church, raised her magic wand high. Her golden hair fluttered, illustrious and noble like the sun goddess. The strength blessing cast on Leah boosted her fire fighting chi and speed by several degrees. We can do it. Everyone needs to have faith. Without Linda, Aiko, the oldest among them, took charge. Aiko drank a mana potion, thinking to herself, they were very lucky this time to have randomly reached the 9th layer, the Twisted Forest, which was most suited for the Snow Goose adventure team. If randomly assigned to the Lava Cave, a mystic realm that completely countered Leah's fire-fighting chi, Aiko would not hesitate to use the town portal scroll, hidden in her pocket, and abandon Leah. Just kidding, she was just a worker, not blindly devoted to the team like someone else. Moreover, since that person had run away, Miss Aiko's already scant loyalty had decreased even further. In the peril-filled mystic realm, the 6 members of the team each had different thoughts. Corona treated fighting magical creatures as a game. Phyllis hesitated whether to drink another mana potion, feeling pain from the swollen magic circuits inside her body. The honest couple, Klein and Oru, prioritized staying alive since they hadn't finished paying off the mortgage on their house in White Dove City. The only one willing to fight desperately to clear the realm was alone. Healer, cast healing art on me. Leah wiped the sweat from her forehead and shouted loudly. A white light fell upon her. Leah felt her strength surge, and even the slight internal injuries healed. She definitely was better than Linda, who came from Noble Academy. Leah was sure in her heart. Taking a deep breath, she gripped the greatsword Flame Devourer in her hands and stared intently at the giant carnivorous flower. The team functioned like a well-oiled magic engine, everyone playing their part seamlessly. But she always felt something was off, like something was not quite right. Even with an amazing new healer, she still felt restricted, unable to unleash her full strength. No one told her in which direction to attack, when to attack, or which part of the magical creature to hit. Dealing with the magical creature's attacks was tiring enough, let alone thinking about these things, causing Leah's head to ache. Her thoughts were not clear, and a stifled anger was pent up inside her chest, unable to escape. Leah remembered how she had waited like a fool at the entrance to the World Tree Mystic Realm earlier that day. She had emphasized repeatedly last night that she would enter the World Tree at dawn today. Linda had a good memory. There was no reason for him to forget. I definitely need to clear this level impressively, to show him that without his Snow Goose adventure team, we are even more formidable. Leah bit her silver teeth in anger. Right at that moment, Captain Danger! Aiko's anxious voice snapped her out of it. Leah jolted awake. The giant carnivorous flower, as if gone mad, pulled up thousands of roots from the ground, turning them into sharp whips to launch an attack. Covering the sky, the roots attacked like a net of death. Leah was somewhat at a loss. Should she retreat? As the thought arose, she seemed to hear someone scoffing in her ear. No need to retreat, just chop this thing down. With determination in her heart, Leah clenched her teeth and charged forward with her sword. She was like a red fish darting through the sea, skillfully dodging the torrent of roots with impeccable agility. Any swordsman of the same level as Leah would be astounded, completely in awe of her extraordinary skills. This was Bursting Flames Leah, the top adventurer of the younger generation in White Dove City. Crazy, but Aiko stomped her feet in frustration. Leah's style of fighting was too dangerous. One mistake, and it would be over. And she was charging too fast. Her teammates simply couldn't keep up. If Lyndon were here, he would probably say, "It's like a rock man flashing up top to crash into someone," asking Yeso in mid why he didn't follow up. Aiko's face was extremely pale. Suppressing the urge to vomit, she cast the light arrow technique much faster than an average mage, severing the giant carnivorous flower's roots and allowing Leah to initiate the skill energy charging. "Well done, Aiko." Leah charged toward the giant carnivorous flower, her greatsword Flame Devourer glowing red-hot as she shouted. Flame slash! A streak of red sword light descended from above, splitting the giant carnivorous flower in half much like Moses parted the Red Sea. The magical creature let out a pitiful scream, staggered, and then fell to the ground with a thump. "We won." Leah stared blankly at the corpse of the creature, her face a mixture of disbelief. Although they hadn't escaped unscathed from the battle, her arm and right leg were grazed by the giant carnivorous flower's roots. They had won. Without Linda, she still led the team to conquer the 9th floor. Indeed, the young lady herself was formidable. Leah's spirits soared to an unprecedented high, as if she could see the team reaching the pinnacle of the world tree. A smile of pride involuntarily formed on her lips, curving into a satisfied arc. However, the overly excited Leah overlooked one problem. Being severely countered by her fire attribute, the giant carnivorous flower, a plant series boss, wasn't actually up to the standard difficulty of the 9th floor. Another potential boss of the 9th floor mystic realm, the lava giant, who possessed high resistance to fire, was a nightmare for her. Hellishly difficult. The outcome of the Snow Goose adventure team encountering the lava giant had never crossed Leah's mind. The several veteran members of the team, upon seeing her proud expression, seemed like they wanted to say something, but held back. Aiko sighed, keeping her preaching thoughts to herself. Only when Leah suffered a setback would she perhaps understand. Meanwhile, specks of light began to fall from the sky. Defeating the giant carnivorous flower triggered a reward from the World Tree Goddess, similar to looting equipment in a game. Gold coins rained down, while the lights varied in color. The common ones were white, slightly better ones were green for fine quality, and blue for rare quality. Luck was on Leah's side. She found a beautifully purple light. She checked them one by one. Level 23 main weapon, the Taman Whip. Not useful, sell it. Level 20 armor, Sunflower's Heart. The defense bonus is decent. Might as well keep it. Level 15 purple rare accessory, Angel's Bracelet. Isn't this healer equipment? Leah's eyes lit up. She turned around and instinctively reached out her hand, ready to give someone a high five. Clearing the 9th floor of the World Tree was a milestone, and exploding with purple rare gear had her over the moon, acting unconsciously like she did in the past. After defeating a boss, she used to high-five that person, then everyone would stack their hands together, shouting and cheering with joy, tossing the equipment and gold coins from the boss into the air, enjoying the full sense of accomplishment. But after Leah reached out her dry hand towards Aiko and the others, she remembered that person seemed to have left the team. The atmosphere suddenly grew quiet. Aiko and the others didn't come forward to ease Leah's embarrassment because nobody knew what was really going through Leah's head. If someone casually went over to take that person's place, it could upset her, which wouldn't be good. So, nobody moved, leaving Leah's right hand awkwardly raised in the air. Oomph. Leah withdrew her hand, stuffing it into the pocket of her skirt armor, her fingers anxiously fumbling with the fabric inside. The smile on her face slowly faded into an icy, poker face. Who would have thought it'd be so easy to take down the giant carnivorous flower? Captain, it's all thanks to you. The newly promoted healer with blonde hair, Phyllis, walked up to Leah with a triumphant smile that was as warm as a spring breeze. Where are we going for tonight's celebration dinner? How about the Michelin 3-star restaurant on Elf Street? The food there is not bad. I'll treat everyone to a good meal tonight. Phyllis tried hard to hide the covetous glint in his eyes, putting on a suave and generous expression as he invited the beautiful redhead girl. With his impressive results as the 10th-ranked student in his healer class, Phyllis had graduated from the White Dove City Noble Academy and was fully capable of joining an adventure team like the Ice Flower Adventure Team, which was above the 10th level. But he had chosen the Snow Goose Adventure Team, which was below the 10th level. He had only one target in mind: the beautiful and noble-born team leader, Leah. Behind this young lady was a father known as the Bloody Baron, who was said to be a promising candidate for reaching level 40 and becoming a moon-rank adventurer. Whoever married Leah could essentially soar to great heights in the second half of his life. Phyllis grinned, fully expecting Leah to agree to his invitation. However, to his surprise, Leah frowned irritably and said, "You guys go ahead. I'm not going." How can that be? You're the team leader." Phyllis felt his mentality explode. If this young lady says she doesn't want to go, then she doesn't go. If you want to go, then go by yourselves. I'm tired. Leah snorted coldly, ignoring Phyllis, who was left dumbstruck, and said to Aiko, "You are responsible for cleaning up the battle loot and distributing the rewards." Aiko rolled her eyes. Distributing rewards was a thankless job. It was impossible to always divide everything perfectly evenly, leaving some unavoidably dissatisfied in the shadows. Previously, the task was done by Linda, and everyone was satisfied, because whenever there was a dispute involving interests, Linda would take less of a share. It's such a headache. If only that dog was still here. Aiko muttered, resigned. She noticed a healer's angel bracelet among the pile of treasures that had burst out, and, after thinking for a bit, asked Leah, "This piece of equipment, sell it. No need to keep it." Leah immediately knew which item Aiko was referring to and said in an indifferent tone, "After conquering the 9th level, the light gate to the 10th level appeared beside the corpses of the magical creatures. The 10th level belonged to the public Grand Secret Realm, where there were teleportation points that allowed for free passage without the need to clear the level." Leah stepped into the light gate and took out a cylindrical blue crystal from her skirt pocket, infusing the teleportation stone with battle chi. A bright light flashed, accompanied by a magic circle beneath her feet, and Leah disappeared from the spot. In the inner city district, the luxurious mansion of the Snow Goose Adventure Team. With a loud bang, "What the hell?" told him to leave, and he really left. A pink cat plushie was thrown by Leah into the trash bin with a grim expression on her face. Leah was alone in the mansion and finally could not hold back and burst out. When she returned, Leah did not see the scene she had imagined. Linda waiting at the door to apologize and humbly acknowledging his mistake. They had adventured together, conquered so many mystic realms, sweated profusely, drank beer in big gulps. She had so many shared memories with him. Yet he had abandoned the team they'd been part of for 3 years, just like that. It was too heartless. And there she had been, thinking about giving that level 15 healer's angel bracelet to Linda. Leah, fuming, stomped around in cotton slippers with a giant carrot pattern, went to the fridge, opened the top compartment, and took out a can of beer. The beer can depicted a fire-breathing dragon, with text that read spicy flavor. Extra high malt concentration. She took the beer and gloomily entered the bathroom. Taking off her clothes, she threw her sweat-soaked black stockings and her clothes-fitting shorts to the side, stood in front of a life-sized mirror, and zoned out looking at her body. Aside from being a bit flat-chested, the rest of her was not bad, especially her elastic, powerful long legs, which often attracted unconscious glances from Linda. Being so beautiful and excellent, why did Linda leave the team? Leah just couldn't understand it. A while later, the large bathtub was filled with hot water, and steam was rising. Leah leaned on the wall, extended a delicate foot, and dipped her toes to check the temperature before slowly lowering herself into the bathtub. She used a floating wooden board as a table to rest her beer, curled up, hugged her knees, and her head was half submerged, blowing bubbles. Having cleared the 9th layer secret realm, she felt somewhat surreal and didn't want to attend the celebration feast. Leah couldn't figure out what was wrong with herself, feeling only irritation and confusion. Time for a bath. Shortly after, Corona's noisy voice came from the hall. The bathroom door burst open, and a nude little girl cheerfully jumped into the bathtub, splashing water everywhere, nearly knocking over the beer on the small table. So really, can you be a bit more serious? You're not a child anymore. Leah steadied her beer, already in a bad mood, and felt like cursing. There are no men in the villa now. I'm just happy. Corona, a bit afraid of Leah, the hot-tempered team leader, shrugged her shoulders and muttered quietly without Delin to protect her. Leah frowned, put one hand on her hip, ready to scold Corona. At that moment, another person entered. The adventure team's mage, Aiko. Aiko sat in a wheelchair, wearing a loose yellow dress, smiling gently with a mature aura akin to a married woman. Regrettably, the mage's abundant, long legs lay soft and powerless on the wheelchair's footrest. One couldn't help but sigh in frustration, wondering why the deity was so cruel to this woman, granting her a broad and ample bosom, yet robbing her of the ability to walk freely. Unlike her healthy appearance in the secret realm, Aiko's legs were afflicted by a strange disease in reality, devoid of any sensation. Only in the secret realm could she stand on her own by using the realm-specific skill Healthy Body. The well-endowed mage, resting her cheek in her hand, grinned and cooed like soothing a child. Leah, it's better not to be angry, or your chest might shrink. Huh, it would be better if they did shrink. Cumbersome things only hinder my sword-swinging speed. But who was the one secretly measuring in front of the mirror, clearly caring so much? Miss Me didn't care at all. Okay. Leah's face turned red as if a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Take this. The mage suddenly reached out with a groping hand. Ah, no pinching. Aiko, you've annoyed me no end. I want to join in too. Corona grabbed Aiko from behind. Oh, after a while of frolicking in the bathtub, the girls' relationship seemed much relaxed. Aiko leaned on the edge of the bathtub, holding the petite Corona, who had her soft pink hair full of bubbles, and gently scrubbed it with a brush. Corona's face was filled with bliss. Feeling that the atmosphere was right, maybe it was time to bring something up, Aiko glanced at Leah and hesitated. Is it okay not to call the Lynn back? The air suddenly fell silent. The seemingly taped-up harmonious facade was torn apart. Aiko had a different opinion about driving Delin away. Why should I call him back? I didn't do anything wrong. Leah's voice suddenly rose by an octave and with a cold glare at Aiko, said, Delin left on his own, didn't he? How is it my fault? What does it have to do with you? Are you kidding? Wasn't it you who drove him away? Aiko questioned silently. When she returned, she had heard rumors that Isa, the silver-haired beauty, had invited Delin to join her. Next to Delin, there was also a golden-haired beauty whose bust was no smaller than hers. If not for Leah's silliness, Delin would already be massaging her feet and preparing her post-battle desserts. Dread filled Aiko. She tilted her head and feigned confusion. But don't you like him? No matter how Leah responded, Aiko had one. If Leah denied it, she would be ruthless. You didn't want him yourself, so there's definitely no problem if I take Delin, right? As for admitting, that would make me a total joker. At these words, Chloe, held in Aiko's arms, shrank into a small pill bug. The bathroom seemed to be filled with a thick smell of gunpowder. Huh. First, 3 exclamations of shock, annoyance, and disbelief, each uttered in a very high-pitched tone. Leah immediately turned red. Aiko, what are you talking about? Me liking that utterly ordinary fool? Stop joking. It's him who likes me. I've never liked him. Leah suddenly stood up for the bathtub. The fierce Fire Series battle chi made Leah's long hair shimmer with a fiery glow, lightly dancing in the air. At that moment, Leah looked like a pissed-off, bristling cat. Now she was really getting agitated. Aiko was laughing so hard inside. Since Leah said so, she wouldn't hold back in the future. Just wait until it becomes her little puppy. Leah better not regret it. And as if to prove her point, Leah, with a stern face, cited an example. At first, they gave all the rewards to me. Even blood brothers don't do that, do they? Every month when he received his salary, he first bought me new clothes and snacks, and he never talked back when I scolded him. Isn't that liking me? Aiko raised an eyebrow. Is it possible that it is like this with all the girls? It's just his promise to that girl, right? A promise not to make other girls in the team sad again. It's just to keep his word to that girl, so he's nice to everyone. Aiko directly mocked Leah. Only nice to you? Purely delusional. Leah probably doesn't even know about them massaging her feet every night. It's the same for everyone, just that Leah gets a bit more attention. These few sentences were like a bucket of cold water poured over Leah's head. She clenched her teeth, her mouth opening several times to say something, then stopping herself. Leah looked down on Da, but held utmost respect for that girl. She forcefully suppressed her anger and sat back down in the bathtub. Picking up a beer, she guzzled down half of it, seemingly talking to herself but actually warning Aiko. From now on, I don't want to hear any news about Da. Otherwise, don't blame me for not being nice. Aiko wisely didn't continue to provoke Leah. Glancing at her iron-blue face, it seemed she had hit a nerve, infuriated and drinking sullenly. Aiko was relieved. All about saving face, right? She deserves it. Then, she absent-mindedly brushed Chloe's hair, her thoughts wandering. Really, Leah was becoming more and more annoying. Even her patience was wearing thin. A desire to leave crossed her mind. Unlike Da and the others, Aiko hadn't joined the Snow Goose adventure team for some elusive dream of conquering the world tree. The compensation Leah provided was high enough, and moreover, the team had many girls and none of the men she despised the most. That's why she joined the Snow Goose adventure team. She wondered where Da, driven out by Leah, had gone and what he was up to. Whether he had been bewitched by Isa, that bitch. Aiko squinted her eyes. Da, I haven't settled the grudge from 3 years ago yet. How could I easily let you go? Dusk. White Dove City, the Sparrow District, where commoners and impoverished adventurers abound. Just let this deity pee first, then you'll understand whether I am a real man or not. Capne felt the need to prove something, otherwise there might be danger tonight. She noticed Lyndon stealing glances at her with a sleazy look. If she were a true woman, she would have felt disgusted, but Capne only felt a chill down below, at risk of being attacked. She was still a virgin, and she absolutely couldn't be screwed over by some lousy hero. Lyndon fiddled with the 7 copper coins in his hand, worrying about where to stay for the night. What do you mean? Hearing that, he looked at Capne, puzzled. Capne smiled and said, Think about it. A real girl wouldn't just pee behind the holly bushes on the street, right? But this deity doesn't care. I don't have any psychological burden about it. So I'm a man, a real man. Hey, don't boast about peeing on the roadside like that. Think about the sanitation workers. Lyndon helplessly put his hand to his forehead. Is this guy really a deity? Being a deity doesn't mean you don't have to take tests, right? All I saw was Capne crossing over the holly, finding a tree for double insurance, and hiding behind it. HM. Humming a strange tune, Capne let out a grunt, shamelessly starting to take care of business. As a deity, her adaptability was strong. What's the old saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Swish, swish. The sweet sound of water rang out, and Capne had no psychological burden whatsoever. Whoa! Suddenly, Capne got so frightened she almost peed her pants. She glared at Lyndon angrily. What are you looking at? Scram, get lost. What the hell are you staring at? Quite a sweet mouth. I'm just curious, Lyndon said. He was puzzled, pointing at Capne, who was squatting on the ground, having rolled up the hem of her dress and holding it in her arms. Aren't men supposed to take care of this standing up? You have no freaking idea. Standing up, it's easy to get on yourself. Capne shifted her angle, circling around the large tree to avoid Lyndon's gaze. She suffered from pee shyness, getting stage fright if someone stared, unable to let it out. Lyndon, with his hand on his chin, pondered, even though you're a man, you actually got used to a girl's body very quickly. Maybe you actually want to be a girl? Have the heart of a girl. What? Capne pulled down her dress, ready to have a big fight with Lyndon. But both of them noticed that outside the holly, without knowing when, a crowd of onlookers had gathered, along with a cleaning lady, angrily hurrying over with a broom. How shameless, peeing right on the street. I'll beat you to death, you sly wench. Alas, the deity was mistaken for a fried chicken again. Capne, ashamed and angry, grabbed the hero's wrist and whispered, Let's go. or we'll be arrested by the Law Enforcement Bureau. They're catching you. What's it got to do with me? Linda complained, being dragged by Capne, running a good distance away. Capne barely stopped to catch her breath when she saw Linda clap his hands, his face brightening with delight. I've just thought of a way to make money. Oh, so we don't have to sleep on the streets tonight. Capne's eyes lit up. Linda nodded, grinning as he pointed at Capne. When we were running just now, I noticed that your dress is made of fine ice silk. It could sell for at least 1 gold coin. Capne stood frozen, her head trembling as she looked down at her thin dress. Inside, other than a set of light blue underwear, there was nothing left. The family in the divine realm, who would understand? On the verge of mental collapse. Capne had finally summoned a hero, but instead of fighting the Demon King, he was eyeing her clothes to sell. Otherwise, she'd have to sleep on the streets. Was saving the world really this hard? All those predecessors who had saved dozens of worlds, how did they manage it? You damned hero, don't you dare strip off a deity's clothes. Capne's cry of despair echoed through the streets. Don't move from there, I'm going to sell your clothes. Linda held a warm white dress with a faint fragrance in his right hand, nodding with satisfaction. Behind the holly on both sides of the street, there was a girl wearing only light blue undergarments. Capne, her face filled with both shame and anger, hugged her head to hide herself and turned her back to Linda. Only the straps of her underwear were visible. This deity's skin, it looked so white, so soft. Linda's mind was filled with wild thoughts. Even Capne was probably warm too. This was no different from a normal girl. Hiding behind the holly, Capne, her face full of shame, said, You damned hero, why must you sell my things? Don't you have things you could sell? She was referring to the magic potions in the form of transparent test tubes hanging from Linda's belt. Small-sized mana recovery potion, nicknamed Little Blue. Small-sized life recovery potion, nicknamed Little Red. Aside from a few magic pharmacists who could concoct them, most of these potions came as rewards from the World Tree Secret Realm, a scarce necessity in high demand and short supply. On Linda's belt, each magic potion was placed in an individual long, brown pouch specially made for carrying them. Capne counted them, 10 each of Little Red and Little Blue. With a market value in White Dove City, they were worth approximately 2,000 gold coins. Sell my magic potions? Absolutely not. Linda's eyes widened in refusal, his hands protectively clutching his magic potions like a stingy miser. With his understanding of the World Tree, having sufficient potions meant that he could slowly whittle down monsters without taking on challenges beyond his level, securing an unbeatable position. 10 bottles each of Little Red and Little Blue was the minimum number he had precisely calculated. Losing even one would make him anxious. In other words, these potions were Linda's nest egg, not to be used lightly except in the most dire circumstances. Linda caressed the potions on his belt fondly, mumbling to himself, Jack, you're my first life recovery potion. I remember it clearly. You dropped from a lava monster on the first layer of the World Tree. For you, I spent 6 hours grinding. And there's Lucy. You're from the 3rd layer of the World Tree. I casually killed a minor creature, and it dropped the most precious reward it could offer. Lucy, the small-sized life recovery potion. The day I got you is undoubtedly a miracle. Then there's Osland. You're from the 5th layer of the World Tree. Carby, I bought you with a hefty sum from Black Uncle. The cork was so large, it must have hurt a lot. Thankfully, I prepared a cork of the right size for you. Lyndon knew the names and origins of each of the 20 bottles of Little Red and Little Blue like treasure possessions. He described his stories with them to Capne, his expression wrapped with enthusiasm and his eyes sparkling with excitement. Magic potions? No, they were Linda's family. Ugh, disgusting, Capne said, looking at Linda as if seeing him for the first time, her face filled with revulsion. How could there be someone who is romantically attached to potions? Disgusting, perverted, just go die already. In summary, Linda coughed, looking serious. I will not betray any of them, so don't even think about getting your hands on my potions. Fine, not selling them, okay? Capne pouted, then pointed to a pocket on Linda's chest. What about that one? Selling it shouldn't be a problem, right? What Capne was referring to was a pocket watch, whose chain looked like it was made of platinum, so it must be worth some money. But to her surprise, Linda refused even more quickly. This can't be sold either. Why can we only sell my stuff? Show a little sincerity yourself. Capne said, annoyed. Linda awkwardly touched his head. Didn't I contribute 7 copper coins? Seeing Capne's face growing increasingly unhappy, he finally stopped joking around. Sorry, an ordinary pocket watch is one thing, but this one really can't be sold. With that, Linda took the pocket watch out of his pocket. It was round, the size of a baby's palm, with a golden matte finish on the outside, and soft music sounded as soon as it was opened. Capne leaned in to see that a photo was embedded inside the watch case, featuring 2 people, Linda and a black-haired young girl. Her skin was pale, and her body extremely frail, but her eyes, black as onyx and full of life, sparkled with activity. She was smiling mischievously, hugging Linda's arm and making a yes sign with scissors fingers next to her eye. Who is this person? Capne noticed that Linda's eyes became very tender when he looked at the pocket watch, as if spring breezes were brushing across a radiant lake. So even the reckless hero had such a side? Linda was silent for a moment, then said, My sister. Sister? Yeah. She went missing at the World Tree 2 years ago, and we still haven't found her. Linda looked at the towering tree in the center of White Dove City, falling silent, as if reluctant to talk about it. Many memories surfaced in his mind. 3 years ago, Linda came to the game world of the Mystic Continent. Not alone, though. He had been pushing his sister, Lin Shi, in a wheelchair when a dump truck had struck them. The siblings, along with Leah, formed the Snow Goose adventure team together. Things went smoothly at first. However, on the 4th level of the World Tree, Lin Shi disappeared, as if she had evaporated from the world, leaving no trace behind. When Linda returned to the adventure team's base, heartbroken, he strangely found Lin Shi's ever-present pocket watch on his desk. Linda still couldn't make sense of what had happened that day. Did Lin Shi return to White Dove City before him, leaving her pocket watch there? Or had Lin Shi already died, and someone else had placed the watch on his desk? Either scenario had many unexplainable aspects. One of the big reasons Linda entered the World Tree was to look for Lin Shi. Don't worry, we will definitely find her, and I will help you once my power is restored, Capne reassured him, seeing Linda looking a bit downcast. But there's something I find strange. Why are you so sure she's missing, rather than having been eaten by magical creatures or something? Capne changed the subject. The space inside Mystic Realms isn't that big, right? If you search diligently, you should always find some clues. Linda shook his head. It's like that for combat-type Mystic Realms, where the space isn't large and the layout is simple. You mainly encounter magical creatures. But story-type Mystic Realms are different. In the game Mystic Continent, some instances have players going straight to battle. Others set several tasks across a vast map, letting players explore and fight monsters until they encounter the final boss. Story-type Mystic Realms belong to the latter. Capne, confused, said, Combat-type, story-type, what do these mean? That's what we locals call them. Linda explained. Around here, there are generally 3 types of Mystic Realms. The first type is the one you just mentioned, the most common combat type. Combat-type Mystic Realms are similar to playing an instance in a game, killing minor creeps, finding the secret realm guardian, taking them down, and then you've cleared it. These kinds of Mystic Realms are generally not big. You could walk through them in a few hours. Oh, what about the second type? The second type is story type, created by the World Tree Goddess. Each world has a different background, science, wasteland, magic, etc. The space of these Mystic Realms is thousands to millions of times larger than the former. So looking for one person is like finding a needle in a haystack. Linda put the pocket watch back in his inner pocket, took a deep breath, and gradually adjusted his mindset. Now, he had long emerged from the despondency of Lin Shi's disappearance and was determined to reach the top of the World Tree one step at a time. He indulged in his sentimentality for a moment and then recovered. Making Capne, the new team member, aware of the types of Mystic Realms was now the most important thing. Capne thought for a moment and said, Story-type mystic realms sound a bit like illusionary training. What's the third type then? The last one is public grand mystic realms. This time, Linda's tone was a bit lighter. Public grand mystic realms are what adventurers like the most. There are no mandatory missions, essentially a free exploration open world. All adventurers who reach this level appear on the same map and can meet each other. In the Great Mystery Continent, there are numerous elite monsters and wild bosses. Killing them can earn a wealth of rewards, as well as abundant mineral resources, truly making it a beneficial mystic realm. A Great Mystery Continent appears every 5 levels, and adventurers can enter once a month, but not at any other times. Linda thought that this setup was different from the one in the game, where it could be refreshed once a week and unlimited times with money. In the real version of the Mystic Continent, for the same tier of Great Mystery Continent, whether noble or commoner, everyone can only enter once a month. Due to the strict limitations on the number of entries, adventurers aim to climb higher to obtain more resources. Linda held up a finger and said, "Each Great Mystery Continent appears every 5 levels and also determines the naming convention for adventure teams. Below 5th level, not even classed. 5th level, Novice Adventure Team. 10th level, Rock Level Adventure Team. 15th level, Steel Level Adventure Group. 20th level, Dawn Adventure Team. 25th level, Radiant Adventure Team. 30th level, Honor Adventure Team. 35th level, Legendary Adventure Group. 40th level, Mythical Adventure Team. No one has conquered levels beyond that." After speaking so much, Linda felt much better. "So what you're saying is the adventure team you were with before, which is just a common rock-level adventure team, isn't that just bottom-tier riffraff?" Capne said disdainfully, her lips curling into a sneer after hearing Linda's story. Linda snapped back to reality and said helplessly, "In White Dove City, rock-level adventure teams are already strong, totaling maybe just over a dozen. Aside from mythical-level adventure teams, I look down on all the others. With your attitude, mythical-level adventure teams wouldn't want you as a Star Fury, not even if you begged. There's only one mythical-level adventure team in the entire Southern Fire Empire, you know." "Star Fury? What do you think I am?" Enraged, Capne stood up, only to realize she was down to her underwear and quickly squatted back into the bushes with embarrassment. Linda coughed and waved the ice silk dress in his hand. "Now that we've got a lowdown on the types of secret realms, you stay hidden. I'll be right back." "Hurry back." Capne looked around frantically, terrified of being seen by passers-by. "I only got 9 silver coins after all. It really must be because you stink so bad. Even the pawnshop owner was reluctant to take it," Linda complained as they headed to the cheapest rental in Sparrow District. Capne, now wearing a different set of clothes, the cheapest brown linen dress bought with 50 copper coins, walked beside him. It was full of loose threads and rough in texture. Capne felt like her skin was about to be rubbed raw. "You sell my stuff for 9 silver coins, but only spend 50 copper coins on clothes for me." Capne frowned and said with dissatisfaction, "Keep this up and I might just find myself another hero." "Suit yourself," Linda snorted. If he could, he would have traded her long ago. Capne was speechless, teeth itching with hatred, yet she had no way to get back at Linda. She couldn't beat him, and complaining might just make things worse. She would just have to endure the humiliation. If the clothes are not up to par, then the place we live should at least be luxurious, right? Smiling, Capne extended a delicate, snow-white finger. A standalone luxury villa shouldn't be a problem, should it? "What are you thinking? We only have 9 silver coins." Linda massaged his temples in distress. As a silver-level magical city, White Dove City was expensive. Renting a place typically required a deposit for 3 months plus the first month's rent up front. Even in a poor place like Sparrow District, the monthly rent was at least 3 silver coins with a 3-month deposit. That's a total of 12 silver coins. The currency system of the Southern Fire Empire: 1 gold coin equals 10 silver coins equals 1,000 copper coins. The purchasing power of 1 gold coin was roughly equivalent to 1,000 yuan in Hua country. In that sense, a monthly rent of 3 silver coins didn't seem too expensive. But the problem was Linda, who had slaved away for 3 years of the Snow Goose Adventure team, had only 9 silver coins to his name, all obtained from selling Capne's possessions. They were far from meeting the deposit and upfront payment, where you could go to Paradise Foam to work as a lady. Forget I said that. Seeing Capne's murder-ready expression, Linda quickly stopped himself. But Paradise Foam, are you asking to be murdered by me while you sleep? Cough, cough, well, I was just saying. The truth is, I have another plan, Linda muttered. We'll have to go to that place. They're all familiar faces. It should be fine to pay a little less for the deposit. The two walked on the streets of Sparrow District. The roads here were narrow and dirty, flanked by low makeshift shacks with laundry lines strung with cheap hemp clothes. At night on these streets, one could often see drunken adventurers, leading to countless brawls, making for quite poor public safety. Thankfully, the darkness obscured vision, preventing those drunks from noticing that Capne was a beautiful bear girl. Passing by an adventurer's guild, the entrance was filled with people, bustling and noisy. Just like watching a soccer match in my previous life, the Adventurers Guild always gathered a group of vibrant, adventure-enthusiastic youths. Linda glanced in that direction. In the crystal screen embedded in the exterior wall of the Adventurers Guild, the Ice Flower Adventure team appeared. Live strategy broadcast. Linda stopped in his tracks, slightly surprised. The so-called live strategy broadcast involves using magical creatures called sensor ladybugs to transmit the live situation of conquering the secret realm to preset crystal screens, achieving an effect similar to live streaming. Linda frowned, recalling how Leah from the Snow Goose Adventure team had also thought of initiating a live strategy broadcast, but he had adamantly refused. The advantages and disadvantages of this approach were quite clear. The advantage was that the live strategy broadcast could bring a lot of popularity to the cooperating Adventurers Guild. The Empire's officials would also give subsidies to the team, and besides, it could showcase the team's strengths and increase fame. However, it also exposed the team's tactics and weaknesses. On this continent, competition among adventure teams was fierce, often erupting in conflicts in the public Grand Secret Realm, fighting over equipment, world bosses, and various magical resources. Once the weaknesses were mastered by rivals, it was equivalent to fighting naked. Generally speaking, unless a team was seriously short of money, it wouldn't choose to initiate a live strategy broadcast, as it was a last resort. Captain ISA was too impulsive. She seemed mature on the surface, but was she, like Leah, a hot-headed person? Linda withdrew his thoughts and looked at the image on the crystal screen. The Ice Flower Adventure team was strategizing the 12th floor and had randomly entered the Silent Cavern, a large, gloomy underground cave. The World Tree Secret Realm contained several maps on each floor, and adventurers were randomly placed into one. Because each map's boss had different weaknesses and resistances, it put a significant test on a team's comprehensive ability. Teams that were single-minded often couldn't last long. Level 25, Armored Turtle Snake, Earth System, skilled in defense, with a health pool among the highest in its level. The Ice Flower Adventure team doesn't have any greatsword users, which is going to be a thorny issue. Linda glanced and guessed the answer immediately. Even if Ice Flower managed to pass, the cost would be incredibly high. But the scene on the screen was even worse than Linda had anticipated. The 6 members of Ice Flower were exhausted from the prolonged battle, and the frontline heavy armored warriors were severely injured. ISA, as the main attacker, was also sweating profusely, her hand holding the ice crystal one-handed sword trembling nonstop, obviously lacking strength, barely able to hold onto her sword. The watching adventurers couldn't help but feel nervous for the Ice Flower Adventure team. Captain ISA, being an extremely beautiful, silver-haired swordsman, was very popular among the adventurers, and no one wanted to see such a young girl perish in the World Tree. Come on, Ice Flower Adventure team, don't give up. You can do it. That armored turtle snake is so hard to beat. The fierce tiger adventure team from the city next door were wiped out on this level just last month. The Ice Flower Adventure team's reckless move to the 12th floor was a bit rash. The adventurers stepped up to the crystal screen, one by one, placing the energy crystals, the demon cores that burst out of the magical creatures, into a recess on a stone platform. Then, with a flash of light, the demon cores vanished as if sacrificed, and the words they spoke appeared as floating text on the crystal screen. Each time Linda saw this scene, he felt a bit tongue-tied. Yes, it's live streaming, and through donating demon cores, they could send suggestions known as barges to the Iceflower Adventure team. The vanishing demon cores were sacrificed to the World Tree Goddess, or the world will of this world. The goddess required a minimum of a level 5 demon core for the sacrifice. Upon receiving the demon core, she would translate the adventurer's words into text and convey it to the censor ladybug's belly, which was square like a small screen. As long as the members of Iceflower looked at it, they could find those suggestions on it. However, the Iceflower Adventure team was currently in a crisis, clearly having no time to look at the censor ladybug. In the image on the crystal screen, the huge armored turtle snake rampaged wildly. Rocks tumbled in the cavern, and 2 heavy armored warriors were sent flying while coughing up blood. We failed. Iceflower's captain, Isa, had silver hair covered in dust, her forehead cut by debris, blood profusely flowing from the wound, a hint of regret showing on her face. She shouldn't have pushed for the 12th floor in one go after Leah cleared the 9th, aiming to widen the gap. Now, the heavy armored warrior was seriously injured. The healer's magic power was exhausted, and the mage had already fallen into a coma. They had to give up. The Iceflower Adventure team could not allow any more members to die. After much thought, Isa finally made up her mind, biting her lip as she issued the order to her team members. Everyone retreat. Use the town portal scroll. The town portal scroll allowed adventurers to forcefully return from the mystic realm. But such scrolls were extremely expensive, comparable to a full set of magical equipment. The biggest drawback of the Iceflower Adventure team was the poor quality of their equipment. The reason being ISA demanded that every team member must have a town portal scroll. Since ISA couldn't obtain a healer like Linda, who could assist the team without injury, she took a different approach, ensuring everyone had a town portal scroll. Just as she was about to channel her battle chi into the scroll and leave the 12th floor, suddenly, the censor ladybug number 3 tied to the pouch on her thigh buzzed its wings, stinging her skin. The ladybug emitted a glow like gold. Golden advice? Could it be Leah mocking me? ISA's face darkened, her grip tightening unconsciously on the ladybug, nearly crushing it. As for advice, it was divided into regular and golden. Regular advice wouldn't cause the censor ladybug to react. If team members didn't watch it in time, it would pass like flowing water. Golden advice, however, required the sacrifice of a high-level demon core. This advice would cause the censor ladybug to vibrate and release a golden light, alerting adventurers that someone had given a golden advice. ISA turned the ladybug over, looking at its belly. Mediocre adventurer. In the center of the armored turtle snake's carapace, there's a darker plate. Attack it with your ultimate skill. Mediocre adventurer. Who was this person? Attacking the carapace of the armored turtle snake. Was this person trying to trap her, sending her to her death? ISA's eyebrows furrowed in anger. The carapace was the part of the creature with the highest defensive power. Even hitting its head was difficult, let alone its carapace. This person specifically asked her to use her magic-draining ultimate skill to attack, making it hard not to suspect the person's intentions were malicious. Sparrow District, outside the Adventurers Guild. Mr. Linda, are you serious? Just for this phrase, you use a level 20 demon core. Jebin, a short, blonde member of the Iceflower Adventure team's logistical staff, said incomprehensibly. Linda nodded. Give me another level 20 demon core. Jebin hesitated, but recalling ISA's opinion of Linda, he gritted his teeth and took one out from his bag. If this former healer of the Snow Goose Adventure team could help Iceflower conquer the 12th floor, Jebin thought it was worth it, even if it took 20 level 20 demon cores, not just one. The quail, egg-sized, fiery red, gem-like demon core was placed by Linda in a groove on the stone platform. Then, a light flickered, successfully sacrificed to the world tree goddess. Linda's golden advice was just one sentence. Captain Isa, it's me, Linda. If Isa had truly admired him when they first met at the secret realm square, she should have trusted him. As for why he helped out, Linda didn't have a specific reason. He was happy to lend a hand if it could save a young girl's life. In the crystal screen, he only saw the sensor ladybug in Isa's hand emit a golden glow again. Isa glanced at the text on the belly of the ladybug, holding her chin, her face contemplative. A moment later, Isa made a decision. She bit off the cork of a purple potion with her mouth and gulped it down, instantly boosting her depleted battle chi. Gluttony potion? Is she really going all out? Linda raised an eyebrow, somewhat surprised. The gluttony potion was an expensive potion that could instantly restore the user's battle chi and magic power, but had significant side effects. It caused excruciating pain after a while and was usually kept as a last resort. That a girl who was barely an acquaintance, let alone a close friend, was so willing to take his advice was beyond Linda's expectations. Inside the crystal screen, Isa bent forward like a sprinting snow leopard, her silver hair and the ice crystal longsword in her hand creating a beautiful arc of light. The girl dodged the rocky fragments thrown by the armored turtle snake like a blade dancer, her agile legs powerfully pushing off the ground, leaping straight onto the back of the armored turtle snake. Her actions flowed smoothly, leaving the crowd of watching adventurers dumbstruck. Linda thought to himself, not bad at all compared to Leah, the talented ice swordsman. It was indeed not easy for Isa to lead the ice flower up to the 12th layer. Once Isa landed on the shell of the armored turtle snake, she leaped into the air again, performing a graceful 360-degree somersault, resembling an ice ring hanging in the sky. The silver-haired swordswoman took a deep breath, channeled her icy battle chi into her one-handed sword, and white frost spread across the cave, creating a thick fog. Ice Blade Waltz! Isa shouted forcefully, unleashing the level 20 ultimate skill of the ice swordsman. Ta-da-ta-da! Icicle after icicle, shaped like diamonds, fell like a torrential downpour, fiercely targeting a dark-colored, bucket-sized carapace in the middle of the armored turtle snake's shell. The members of Ice Flower, as well as the people outside the Adventurers Guild, couldn't help but sweat. If the attack proved ineffective, Isa could be hit by the huge tail of the armored turtle snake. Such an impact could cause serious injuries to Isa, or even death. Unlike the anxious onlookers with their hearts in their throats, Linda was not the least bit panicked. The weak spot of the armored turtle snake had long been no secret among gamers in his past life. In the current reality of Mysticontinent, very few adventure teams tried a direct attack on the carapace, and even if someone knew about this weakness, they kept it tightly under wraps or sold the information for a high price. At least among the adventure teams in White Dove City, no one knew the secret of the armored turtle snake. As the icicles continuously struck that carapace, the crystal screen showed the armored turtle snake suddenly screaming in agony, thrashing its heavy limbs. The cave filled with dust, and the ground shook. The piece of shell right at the center of the monster's carapace was surprisingly fragile, and when the first piece was destroyed, the entire shell crumbled like a castle of sand. Even Isa did not expect such good results, her mouth agape in shock. The members of Ice Flower finally snapped to their senses, their spirits lifting from despair to fierce determination, as if invigorated. Kill this magical creature. Captain Isa, we're here to help you. Healer, quick, cast a healing art on the captain. The armored turtle snake, without its heavy carapace, was already a tiger that had its teeth pulled out. The Ice Flower adventure team pursued their victory, and in just a few minutes, they had dealt with this massive magical creature. On the side of the Adventurers Guild, the spectating crowd also let out a cheer. Gazes of admiration or surprise fell upon Linda. Although they did not know how Linda had learned of the armored turtle snake's weakness, His willingness to share this secret publicly was a great boon to all adventurers. Without Lyndon's golden advice, the members of the Iceflower Adventure team would have used their town portal scrolls by now, retreating from the 12th floor in disgrace. Jebin, a logistics member of Iceflower, had his face turn red, almost kneeling down in excitement. Had Lyndon not helped today, not only would everyone have lost a town portal scroll, but it would have been a severe blow to the morale of the Iceflower Adventure team. Mr. Linda, please do visit the Iceflower Adventure team. Oh no, another day, our captain will surely visit you. No need to be polite. Let's help each other out in the future, Linda said with a light smile. Next to him, Capne was constantly pulling at his sleeve, hinting with we strongly need money eyes. Linda pretended not to see. In the crystal screen, Isa bowed deeply, wiped the sweat from her forehead, and smiled. Linda, you're still there, right? I've changed my mind now. I will definitely make you a member of Iceflower. Upon hearing this, a wave of jeers spread through the crowd, and the way people looked at Lynn started to change. Many did not know that Linda had left the Snow Goose Adventure team, and now, with Iceflower's captain extending a cordial invitation, in their eyes, it was nothing short of poaching from the Snow Goose Adventure team. Given the poor relationship between Snow Goose and the Iceflower captain, it wouldn't be surprising if that red-haired girl showed up on their doorstep any moment. The crowd also grew curious on how Lynn managed to catch the attention of two adventure team captains who couldn't stand each other. The golden advice earlier, if it had been anyone else, Isa probably wouldn't have trusted them. Because it was Linda, Isa trusted enough to consume the gluttony potion using the massively draining Ice Blade Waltz. Realizing this, many adventurers felt as if they had a lemon in their mouths, incredibly sour. Only Linda felt it very troublesome. He wouldn't join any team, even if Isa's invitation was very sincere. Right, those 2 level 20 demon cores, he said to Jebin. No need to return them, of course not. Jebin said with a laugh, I'd gladly give you 2 more level 20 demon cores. But, compared to Linda's favor, level 20 demon cores were hardly enough. How to properly thank Linda would have to be decided after Isa returned. Oh, Linda waited for a while, but didn't see Jebin reach into his bag. Not quite the sharpest tool in the shed, this guy. After leaving under Jebin's respectful escort, Capne could not hold back anymore. Ask for money. Are you stupid? Why didn't you ask that guy for gold coins? Linda shook his head. If they don't proffer it and you have to ask, you use up at least half the goodwill. Besides, Isa has a good reputation. She won't forget today's events. We all are in White Dove City, seeing each other often. Who knows when we might need Isa's help again. Keeping this goodwill is far better than asking for some gold coins. Besides, they still had 9 silver coins. They weren't at the end of their resources yet. After hearing this, Capne pondered, you really know a lot. It was, after all, Linda's thorn-in-the-neck technique. Linda thought. An hour later, in the inner-city district at Tequila's Home Tavern, in a luxurious private room on the 3rd floor, the Iceflower Adventure team was having a celebration banquet. Isa, dressed casually with her silver hair tied back with an orange headband into a ponytail, sat at the head of the round table and spoke to Jebin, who had just rushed over. Did you find out why Linda left the Snow Goose Adventure team? At the mention of Linda, the members of the Iceflower team all got a bit excited, talking over one another. Captain, we must recruit him. I've been wanting to test my healing art against that Eye of Wisdom for a while now. Yes, even though he dropped to level 0, which is quite tragic, catching up later, he can quickly become a major asset to the team, worth cultivating. Just because he was once part of the Snow Goose Adventure team and is willing to help us, he deserves exceptional inclusion. The members of the Iceflower, both men and women, unanimously praised Linda. Logistics Officer Jebin, panting, said, Captain, I got it from Chloe with just some snacks. I bought her off. Chloe said that Linda was kicked out by Leah for being too weak, and Leah also declared that if Linda ever comes back, no one is allowed to sympathize with him. Looks like Linda definitely won't be returning to the Snow Goose Adventure team. Jebin couldn't help but smile. This is a great opportunity. Isa nodded. She was thinking, no matter what, she had to find a way to get Linda to join Ice Flower. A talented healer is worth training from scratch. But how would she repay today's favor? Someone like Linda probably doesn't lack gold coins. He must have saved quite a lot in the Snow Goose adventure team. Besides, offering gold coins would seem vulgar and might lower her impression in Linda's eyes. Concerned about how to return the favor, Isa, who always disliked owing anyone anything, fell into a dilemma. The team's close confidant and fellow healer, Phyllis, suddenly leaned in, a sly twinkle in her eye. "Lord Captain, at your age, shouldn't you consider finding a boyfriend? Dating that Linda would surely make him happy. After all, Lord Captain is so beautiful." A date. Isa's face flushed as she slammed her large wooden mug full of wheat beer onto the table, annoyed. "I'm still young, not yet at the age to need a boyfriend." Ha ha ha. Laughter and cheerful voices filled the room. At the next meeting, we should congratulate Isa on breaking through the 12th floor and entering the list of top teams in White Dove City. Under the night sky, Linda, with Capne in tow, hurried towards the rental housing area. In his mind, he replayed the scene on the crystal screen of the Ice Flower adventure team working in perfect harmony, jointly attacking the armored turtle snake, and he felt a pang of envy. Every member of Ice Flower genuinely trusted Isa, and Isa reciprocated that trust with her team members. When Isa charged at the armored turtle snake, all the members followed her forward, entering the attack range of the armored turtle snake. Even though the team members internally questioned the correctness of Isa's actions, Linda thought back to his time with the Snow Goose adventure team and immediately got a headache. In terms of individual skills, the members of Snow Goose were much more powerful than those of Ice Flower, but they acted like a disconnected group when combined. He too wished to form a team like Ice Flower, but creating a team required registration at the Adventurers Guild. Only the jobless freelancers have the qualifications to form a team. Linda frowned as he scratched his head. Currently, he was, in a strict sense, still part of the Snow Goose adventure team. To become a freelancer, he would need the captain's signature on a resignation form and a stamp from the Adventurers Guild. Then he needed to pray in front of the World Tree Goddess statue to fully revoke his Snow Goose member status. Getting the team withdrawal certificate shouldn't be difficult. Linda thought for a moment and then let go. That Leah wouldn't let him stay. Deliberately holding him up was also unlikely. According to the Empire's Adventurers Law, Article 35, if Leah stalled him, he could apply to the Adventurers Guild for a forced withdrawal. Although it might drag on for a few days, just to be annoying, but based on Linda's understanding of Leah, she disdained such petty tricks. Just like her Fire Series battle chi, she was as fiery and impetuous as flames. He figured as soon as he went over, without needing to speak, she would throw the withdrawal certificate in his face. That's good. Save the hassle of arguing. Linda, with hands in pockets, and Capne headed towards their rental destination. "Where's my grand villa, my big swimming pool? You're making me live in a place like this." In the middle of a decrepit old neighborhood, Capne wailed. What met the eyes was a row of two buildings with yellowing walls, as old and shaky as an 80-year-old man on his last legs in the wind. Capne learned from Linda and that old landlady's conversation that the apartment was only 50 square meters, without a private bathroom, communal, shared by the whole floor. Bathing with others. No thanks. Capne still wanted to hide her big, embarrassing bear. She had never lived in such a rubbish place in her life. Linda, however, didn't care at all and haggled with the landlady. 2 silver coins a month. I plan to stay long-term. Oh dear, if it weren't for Eye of Wisdom, sir, I definitely wouldn't agree. The gossipy, rent-collecting landlady looked at Linda. What happened to those girls? Back in the day, you were the only one who could make 4 girls willingly live in a place like this. 3 years ago, Linda was seen every day with 4 beautiful girls, and it was rumored they partied every day in the house. Living in a run-down house, but still managing to bewitch 4 girls left a deep impression on the landlady. Cough, cough, I came alone. Noticing that the landlady was peeking at Capne and giving him a knowing smile, Linda quickly cleared his throat. So, is 8 silver coins enough? Let's get on with the check-in. For Eye of Wisdom's sake, Annie will take one off, 6 coins. Really? Thank you so much. Linda quickly signed the rental contract and, with a dejected Capne, went to the 3rd floor, hearing her mutter, "Don't want to live here, too shabby. How can a worthless hero treat a deity like this?" and other complaints. That's enough. Not sleeping on the streets is already pretty good. Having a house in Sparrow District means you don't have to worry about safety. Look on the bright side. You won't be targeted by Black Uncle. Linda tried to cheer Capne up optimistically. Someone else should have been the hero, Capne retorted sarcastically. Ignoring the sullen deity with golden hair, Linda took a key from his pocket. It had a worn sticker with unclear handwriting, barely making out 305. Linda blinked in surprise. Wasn't this the room he and the others lived in 3 years ago? The Snow Goose adventure team was extremely poor in the early days, and although the girls like Leah came from distinguished backgrounds, each seemed to have their own difficulties. Together, they managed to scrape up a single gold coin. Now, 3 years later, coming to rent again, it was the same room. Coincidence? Or was it the landlady's deliberate arrangement? Fighting alongside someone new at the place where he once battled might seem quite thrilling to that landlady. But the reality was not like that at all. In the early days of the Snow Goose adventure team, they spent all day fighting monsters, training, then coming back to eat before crashing into bed. Their minds were solely on the World Tree Secret Realm. There was no time for other activities. Linda couldn't help but frown. Living in this kind of house would only remind him of the old Snow Goose adventure team, inevitably making him feel uncomfortable. What are you dazing out for? Hurry up and go in. Capne, both tired and hungry, was already displeased, and with Linda stupidly daydreaming, she grabbed the key from him in frustration. With a click, the door opened, and Capne pushed her way in. Apparently, the place had not been aired out for too long. A damp and musty smell assaulted their senses as they entered. Capne immediately pinched her nose, her face turning bitter. As for Linda, the sight of the familiar old furniture in the small rental room was like overturning a jar of mixed emotions. Many scenes that had been sealed in the corners of his memory seemed to be unlocked by this rusty key, coming at him thick and fast. "What's wrong with you?" "It's nothing." "Oh." Capne didn't bother with him anymore and started to look around the room. One bedroom, one living room with a separate bathroom. When the light was turned on, its dim yellow glow made the narrow space feel even more constricting, almost suffocating. Capne continued to complain. Linda, as if he hadn't heard, wandered through the dust-covered living room. He looked at the mahogany round table, which had lost much of its paint and was pocked with dents, and felt a tinge of emotion. Those dents were made by Corona, who used an iron ladle to serve food. With no toys to play with while waiting for dinner, she would bang the spoon on the table. Each time Corona did that, she'd puff out her little chest with an excuse. "It's because our team is so poor we can't even afford toys, so I have to play with this." Across from the door, where the round table faced, was Leah's seat. Linda sat opposite, with Lynn right next to him, and Aiko and Corona to each side. Seeing the objects brought back a flood of memories, vividly coming to life in Linda's mind. He sat down in his own seat. That moment, it was as if something had come alive. In a daze, he seemed to return to the scene from 3 years ago, stored in his memory. "What are you looking at? Aren't we toasting?" The voice that sounded like an illusion echoed in his ears. Linda looked up incredulously. Across the round table, a girl with fiery red hair and a fresh, youthful face was holding a large oak cup, tilting her head and looking at him oddly. Linda, are you tired already? You're such small fry." Corona held the cup with both hands, her snow-white feet stretched out under the table, swinging back and forth like a swing, laughing mischievously. "Shall I cook next time?" Aiko's tone was a bit worried, as if she felt bad that Linda always had to cook. "Brother?" Lynn, a delicate girl with soft black hair, was also looking at him with concern. Linda's gaze lingered on her for a long time. But the protagonist today was not Lynn. Linda thought for a moment about what had happened at that time. If he remembered correctly, Today was the day they failed on the second layer of the world tree. Luck was terrible. They were randomly sent to a mystic realm that was highly incompatible with the Snow Goose adventure team. Someone didn't follow orders and broke away from the group, rushing into the midst of the magical creatures. If not for a town portal scroll, the Snow Goose adventure team would have been wiped out. It was from this painful lesson of the second layer that Lyndon started the habit of collecting magic potions. Under his adamant request, from then on the team had to exceed the level recommended by the Adventurers Guild for the corresponding layer, be skilled in the boss strategies of every random map, capable of a 100% success rate before agreeing to attempt a strategy. Watching the expressions of the young girls in his memory, some worried, some laughing, Lyndon felt a warm current flow through his heart. This was the Snow Goose adventure team he was willing to stay with. The gentle and considerate Aiko, the quirky Corona who also called him brother, biting her lip as if she was preparing to apologize for rashly entering the heartland of the magical creatures. It was Leah. His own sister, Lin Shi, was still there as well. The members of the adventure team really felt like family. Back then, Linda deeply believed that establishing the Snow Goose adventure team was the right choice. If only the team hadn't become famous, it would have been fine for it to remain ordinary. This thought flashed through Linda's mind. Suddenly, Leah across the round table stood up. With pursed lips, head slightly bowed, and fists clenched tight, it seemed she was ready to say something. Everyone looked over in surprise. Linda's expression hardened. It was here that Leah entrusted herself to him. Today's failure was my fault. I shouldn't have risked going into the giant water serpent's heartland. Because everyone tried to save me, it nearly led to our team's annihilation. Aiko hugged the trembling Leah and whispered softly, "Captain, don't blame yourself. We are teammates, and we still need you to lead us to overcome higher levels." But, Sister Leah, neither brother nor I will blame you, okay? No, I know you're all just trying to comfort me. Leah wiped her swollen eyes and looked at the silent Lynn sitting across the round table. She bit her lip and said, "If we had just listened to Linda and retreated, wouldn't have. Take this as a lesson. From now on, be more cautious. Only venture into the world tree when certain of victory." Hearing Linda say this, the self-reproach on Leah's face visibly lessened. But she didn't sit down and suddenly bowed deeply. Her voice was loud as she earnestly requested, "Linda, please help the Snow Goose adventure team take everyone, without a single person left behind, through the world tree secret realm." Linda remembered clearly from that day onward, the level of detail in his strategy planning had multiplied many times, and so had the time spent. He envisioned all sorts of scenarios in defeating magical creatures, and as long as the adventurers met the level requirements and adhered strictly to the strategy, they could pass without injury. "This kettle is broken, but it still works," really bails us out. An incongruous voice suddenly emerged within the memory illusion. The scenes around him shattered like glass, and Linda dumbly returned to the musty, cold rental space. The round table was much shabbier than in his memories, and the straightforward, red-haired girl who had sat across from him had disappeared. Linda looked at the person who had pulled him out of his memories, Capne, who used an old kettle to boil water and placed it with a clatter on the table. "Want some?" Linda opened the cup he carried along with the magic potion and filled it with hot water. He saw that Capne was using a pink mug with a fire dragon pattern. "This cup is still here, surprisingly not thrown out by the landlady." Linda was a bit surprised. This was the cup Leah used to use when they lived here. He walked over to the small washroom to check. In front of a mirror held together with tape was a wooden basket for washing items, and several differently colored cups were covered with a thick layer of dust. Linda then turned towards the wall to the right of the mirror, where the crooked lettering was indeed still there. Time had passed too long. The letters were yellowed, some too blurry to make out, looking like random scribbles. "Become a #1 adventure team in White Dove City. Cure the legs and open a lingerie store in Imperial Capital. Buy all the toys, order rabbit armor. Stay with brother forever." And at the bottom, squeezed into the corner with gigantic fonts, was a line written in minuscule letters like a mosquito's buzz, hoped to safely reach the top of the world tree. Seeing these words, Lyndon rubbed his brow and sighed. Of the original 5 members who established the Snow Goose adventure team, 2 had already left, which inevitably brought a sense of change and loss. Leah's dream hadn't changed at all, but she herself had changed too much. Entering the living room, Linda sat on a couch with cotton showing through, staring blankly at the dark ceiling. "What about dinner?" Capne asked, clutching her belly and looking distressed. "Let's just go to bed early and eat tomorrow," Linda said. Capne's face was full of astonishment. Linda, however, had no appetite. Capne had taken a silver coin from him, and when she asked if he was going to eat while leaving, he declined. His mind was in disarray. After recalling those memories, he felt a strange sense of anticipation about meeting Leah tomorrow. How could the bursting flames Leah from the game have turned into what she is now? When Linda agreed to form the team, it wasn't solely because of a common purpose. It was also because at first glance at that red-haired girl, he recognized her. She was a popular NPC from the Mystic Continent game, Bursting Flames Leah. In the version 1.1 Blood Moon event, Leah was level 40 and the leader of the Sunrise level adventure group. Mature and steady, with a strong sense of responsibility, her greatsword wrapped in flames had captured the hearts of many players. But the Leah Linda met was completely different in character from the Bursting Flames Leah of the game, despite their identical looks. The latter was mature and steady, beloved by people. The other was willful and petulant, only good at shifting the blame. Is it that reality differs from the game, or has my arrival caused a butterfly effect, altering the story? Upon careful consideration, Linda realized that ever since he joined the Snow Goose adventure team, he had been assigned to cook, strategize for the Mystic Realm, prepare supplies, calculate the value of the spoils, distribute rewards. Everything was done by him. These tasks, which should have been mostly the responsibility of the team leader Leah, were taken on by Linda to let Leah focus on her training and leveling up after accepting her request. Could it be that I caused a mature and steady Leah from the game to disappear? Linda was stunned at his own thoughts. Capne had mentioned before that he was spoiling the members of the Snow Goose adventure team too much, and he hadn't taken it seriously. But now he thought there might be some truth to it. Linda could not help but sigh. To think of remedying the situation now was pointless. He had already become a hero, accompanied by a useless goddess, and was destined to establish his own team. So even if Leah truly reverted to her original personality, he couldn't possibly rejoin the Snow Goose adventure team. With the moonlight shining through the window, Linda took out paper and ink and began drafting his resignation from the team at the table. The room echoed with the sound of the quill scratching against the paper. After a moment, Linda set down his pen, tucking the completed document into his chest. When he finished writing the resignation, the uncomfortable feeling that had faintly troubled him vanished, leaving him completely calm. He took one last look back and truly had no regrets. Although he hadn't yet registered his official departure with the Adventurers Guild, Linda felt in his heart that he was already a free man, unaffiliated with any team. At a little past 8 in the evening, the Sparrow District on the city's edge had already fallen into silence, while the affluent White Dove District was still brightly lit. The bustling shopping streets glowed with various magic lantern signs, and there were many stylishly dressed men and women. Occasionally, one could also see the unusual sight of beastmen and elf couples walking hand in hand. Since a divine decree from the World Tree Goddess 300 years earlier, the wars across the continent had ended, ushering in an era of peaceful coexistence among multiple races. As indicated by the divine decree, the demon King Satan, sealed by the previous generation of heroes, was about to return from the bottom of the demon realm. To select a new hero, the World Tree Goddess had placed the strongest weapon, Hero's Sword, at the top level of the World Tree Secret Realm. This further elevated the status of adventurers, and all intelligent beings living on the Mystic Continent aimed to reach the top of the World Tree and pull out the Hero's Sword. At that moment, in a luxurious mansion in the inner city district, in a lavishly decorated living room, a young girl wearing a loose, orange long dress had fallen asleep on the couch. Her red hair, as smooth as satin, spread out like a waterfall touching the floor. Leah, having just come out of the bath, was relaxed and had planned to rest on the couch for a while, but had unexpectedly drifted into deep sleep. Without a doubt, the continent flourished because of the world tree. Leah dreamt of 10 years ago, hiding outside the windows of the Noble Academy, eavesdropping on a teacher's lecture. But what I need to clarify is the world tree we see is not its main trunk. Is it not? Leah thought to herself. She leaned in closer. The world tree's roots spread across the continent. Those roots that break through the ground become smaller world trees, which are what we see. Each world tree has a different maximum number of levels, some only 5, some 20, but only the sacred world tree in the center of the continent, in the sanctuary, reaches the top level. With each world tree as a nucleus, the original adventurers gathered, multiplied, established villages, and as the population grew, these places gradually turned into towns and cities. That is the origin of our Red Heart City. Do not dishonor the legacy of your city's founders. Strive to become adventurers, aiming to reach the top level of the world tree. Oh. The exhilarating shouts of children burst through the window. The descendants of the founders are so great. Beneath the window, Leah, dressed in grubby commoner's clothes, clutched her straight wooden stick tightly, her eyes filled with resentment for her own circumstances. She thought, one day she would become a top-level adventurer, a person respected by all, not someone hiding under someone else's classroom to learn. Time seemed to accelerate by tens of thousands of times, and after a dizzying spin, Leah realized she had left Red Heart City and arrived in a dirty, run-down rental in White Dove City. A pitted redwood, round table, and a persistent musty smell that never dissipated. A bunch of people squeezed together, the air so thin it seemed one had to struggle with each breath. Those poor memories prickled at Leah's nerves every time she recalled them. Please take everyone with you, without exception, and conquer the top level of the world tree. The sudden sound of a familiar voice made Leah's eyelids twitch. She saw, not far in front of her, among 5 people gathered around the round table, a red-haired girl, noticeably younger than herself, suddenly stood up and bent over to plead with the healer in their team. Leah's face darkened instantly. Why did it have to be that day? She woke up from the nightmare. Groggily sitting up from the couch, she touched her forehead, which was covered in sweat. Take everyone with you, without exception, and conquer the top level of the world tree. How naive she had been back then, and Linda had actually agreed with a serious face. Leah found it a bit funny. Anyone in the adventure team knew that it was impossible not to have personnel changes when summoning the world tree. With a total of 50 layers in the mystic realm, each layer had several random maps, populated by various types of guardians. Relying on just a few fixed team members wasn't feasible to handle all the guardians. Personnel changes were too normal. The main members of the Snow Goose adventure team had not changed for 3 years, which in the eyes of other adventurers was abnormal. As the leader of the Snow Goose adventure team, Leah should have kicked out Linda, a 15th level member, a long time ago, but out of old loyalty, she had kept him, paying him the salary of a main team member. After returning from the world tree, Leah thought about it all afternoon, but still couldn't understand the reason Linda had quit the team. She sulkily took out a bottle of juice from the refrigerator and began to sip from it with both hands held around it. Leah recalled that before she had asked Linda to lead everyone to the top of the world tree while in the rental house, Linda had been amazing, capable of guiding the team through higher levels with lower ranks. But since she had asked him, although the team's level had already surpassed the recommended strategy level of the Adventurers Guild, he still refused to progress, insisting that everyone master the level to handle all bosses without getting injured. If Linda had used his previous capabilities, they could have easily moved on, right? The more Leah thought about it, the angrier she got. Is dinner not ready yet? Having finished her juice, she banged the table in frustration. When no response came after waiting for a long while, it was the first time this had ever happened. Leah was stunned for a moment, then looked around and realized that the living room was empty, just her alone. Aiko and Corona were probably in their rooms, Klein, and Oru, the couple, had bought a house in installments and didn't live here. Where's the food, the food? Leah bit her lip in frustration. Normally at this time, Linda would have already prepared dinner, and all they had to do was eat, but Linda had suddenly left the team, and she hadn't had the time to hire a new cook. With her stomach growling nonstop, Leah, full of resentment, went to the fridge to look for something to eat. From the storage level equipped with a freezing array below, she dug out a few bags of dumplings. "We'll just eat this tonight." Leah saw the handwritten label on the packaging, which was pork and chive filling, and felt a bit calmed. This strange delicacy, wrapped in dough, she often used as a midnight snack. It's just that before, she only had to yell, and someone would boil the dumplings. Now, she had to cook them herself. Leah found it quite fresh and entered the kitchen, full of zest, with the dumplings in hand. It was her first time doing this, giving her the thrill of an adventurer entering a new mystic realm. After some fiddling, she finally managed to light the stove. A pale blue flame rose up. Next was to pour water into the pot. Although she had never seen Linda do it, she could guess how it was done. After pouring in the water, Leah poured a big bag of dumplings into it with a splash. This much was enough for 3 people to eat. Leah tied on an apron, crossed her arms over her chest, and smugly imagined the scene where Aiko and Corona would be in disbelief, praising her. Gurgle, gurgle. Not long after, the cold water heated up to boiling and started to bubble. Leah stared with wide eyes in confusion. What happened? The dumplings had all burst open, and the filling was spilling everywhere. "Aiko, Aiko, come here, there's a problem." Leah shouted as she clumsily tried to salvage the dumplings in the pot. A while later, Aiko, with her face covered in cucumber slices, came downstairs from the second-floor bedroom in a huff. Her wheelchair, a custom model from the Alchemist Guild powered by a demon core, had no trouble with stairs. "What's wrong?" Aiko arrived at the kitchen. "The dumpling skins have all burst," Leah said in frustration. "Why must they give me such a hard time too?" Aiko glanced at them and immediately understood the problem, somewhat speechless. "Did you boil them in cold water?" Aside from fighting, the captain was truly useless at everything. Aiko thought indignantly. Even unable to cook properly, she really didn't know where Leah found the confidence to agree to Linda's departure from the team. Fortunately, the girl wasn't stupid enough to throw the resignation letter directly at Linda. Until she formally cancels the contract at the Adventurers Guild, Linda was still technically a member of the Snow Goose adventure team. This was an opportunity to seize, and Aiko needed to take the chance to properly persuade Linda to stay. Aiko pushed back her thoughts, looked up at Leah, and said with a pretended smile, "Of course they would burst. You have to use boiling water. Don't you know even this? I've never made dumplings before. How was I supposed to know that? What right do you have to criticize me?" Leah threw her spoon onto the stove and retorted forcefully. Aiko grew even more frustrated to the point that she felt her patience was wearing thin. It was always like this. Nothing was ever Leah's fault. If a mistake was made, she always shifted the blame onto the team members. Taking a deep breath and suppressing the veins jumping on her forehead, Aiko said through clenched teeth, "Go rest. Throw these out. I'll make a new batch." "That won't do. Wasting food is not a good habit." Leah refused. Aiko wanted to swear. That was typical stingy adventurer logic, able to be swindled out of 100 gold coins for gear, but so frugal over small expenses like clothing and food, unwilling to lose even a single copper coin. She forcibly contained her anger, ushered Leah into the living room, and dished out the dumplings to bring them to the table. Pigfee, Corona, who had been starving waiting at the table since she came down from the second floor, scratched her head in confusion at the sight of the ragged dumplings in the plate. "I made them." Leah narrowed her eyes. Corona didn't dare to say another word. With a pained expression, she swallowed a half-cooked dumpling and couldn't help but ask, "Miss Aiko, when is Linda coming back?" In Corona's eyes, the concept of Linda leaving the team wasn't quite clear. It probably meant he would return by evening. "Oh, well." Aiko glanced at Leah. Leah said nothing, furiously stuffing dumplings into her mouth as if trying to prove to the two of them that they were in fact edible. "He'll be back tomorrow, right?" Kelowna looked at Aiko hopefully. "It'll take a few days." Linda went out to clear his head, Aiko said as she patted Kelowna's head. While she spoke to Kelowna, she cast a sidelong glance at Leah, clearly noticing that the moment Linda was mentioned, Leah's dumpling-packing hand stiffened unnaturally. Aiko sneered inwardly. She really didn't want to clean up after Leah. But the Snow Goose adventure team indeed needed Linda, even if his level was a bit low. Having him at home developing strategies or cooking would be beneficial. She needed to persuade Linda properly and convince him to come back as her own. Oh no, that's not right as a teammate. A faint blush crept over Aiko's cheeks as she seemed to think about something. All three of them were preoccupied, and silence ensued at the table, leaving only the sound of eating. This quietness seemed to make Leah quite uncomfortable. Her right foot kept tapping the ground beneath her, an irritating sound. Aiko always had the feeling that it wouldn't be surprising if this powder keg exploded at any moment. Why didn't she use her own skills to beg Linda to return? She was only good at giving team members dirty looks, wasn't she? Aiko couldn't take it anymore and coughed lightly, confronting the issue head-on. "I will find a chance to talk to Linda." Leah, sipping her juice with her head lowered, did not respond, but the tip of her foot that had been tapping stopped. Noticing this detail, Aiko's disdain for Leah was almost overflowing like a sea. She tried her best not to let this expression show on her face and said calmly, "I'll go ask him if he's realized his mistake." Before she had finished speaking, she heard Leah snort coldly. "Anyway, I won't let him rejoin the team." Aiko smiled, wanting to smack the bowl down on Leah's head. "It's Aiko and the others who want you back. I didn't agree. If you really want to come back, then work hard and don't slack off." Aiko could completely imagine the scene when Linda returned. Thump, thump, thump. Just then, there was a knock at the door. All three turned to look. Aiko thought to herself, "I'll go take a look." What if it was Linda outside? She couldn't let that little bitch Leah have alone time with Linda. Not late at night, with just the two of them. Too dangerous. Aiko opened the door, holding a sliver of hope as she stepped outside. But it wasn't Linda. A group of young men were gathered at the villa's entrance. The leader was a neatly dressed, lean young man with a band around his head that read Ice Flower Adventure Team Support Group Leader. Aiko's face twitched. These people, they're what you call homebodies, right? Ones who don't dare venture into the mystic realm, but idolize adventures so much that they make someone else's adventure team their spiritual pillar. What disgusted her even more was that this group was the support group for the Ice Flower Adventure Team. Ever since she heard that ISA had invited Linda to join the team, she hadn't felt good about ISA at all. "This is the Snow Goose Adventure Team. Haven't you arrived at the wrong place?" Aiko smiled warmly, like a mature big sister, perfectly concealing her true inner thoughts. "So elegant. You truly deserve the title of Holy Mage Aiko. So gentle, we won't get scolded even for disturbing her in the middle of the night. From today on, Miss Aiko will be my second spiritual pillar." The crowd cheered and hollered excitedly. Aiko caressed her cheek, casually revealing a strand of snowy white at her shoulder, smiling radiantly. "So, why have you all come to the Snow Goose Adventure Team? Is there something you need, or are you lost?" The group was so mesmerized they found their mouths going dry. But thankfully the leader Dawn was resolute, pinching his thigh hard as he said, "Actually, we're here to see Mr. Linda." "Linda?" Aiko's expression changed. The matter of Linda leaving the team was currently only being whispered among a few adventurers. Ordinary people like Dawn were still unaware. She didn't mention the fact that Linda had left the team and asked indifferently, "What do you want with Linda?" "It's like this." Dawn retold the events of the afternoon, when Linda had helped the Ice Flower Adventure Team out of a crisis, clearing the 12th floor. "We wanted to find Linda to thank him, to express our gratitude for his help with the Ice Flower Adventure Team. Also, to warn Linda not to lay a hand on our Captain ISA. Captain ISA belongs to our support group." Facing this group of nerds, seriously uttering revolting words, Aiko could barely keep the smile on her face from faltering. "Linda? He helped ISA clear the 12th floor? How could he do that? What right did he have?" Aiko felt a faint jealousy, and it was lucky that it was her who came to the door. If it had been Leah, she probably would have had a stroke on the spot. The Snow Goose adventure team struggled and fumbled through 9 floors. Yet once outside, a few sentences from Linda helped Ice Flower clear the 12th.